All right, what's going on? Drive time, Friday afternoon, 4 minutes past the hour of 2 o'clock. The sun is trying its best to come out and shine this afternoon. It has been a cold 24 or 48-hour-ish window here in Salt Lake City, Utah. The weekend looks pretty good. We're going to get some warm temperatures on Sunday. The weather will start to warm up a little bit tomorrow, but it's still about 48 degrees here in downtown Salt Lake City, Utah on this Friday afternoon. Happy Friday to you. Congratulations. You made it weekend time. Showed up all week and you did the things, and now it's time to enjoy a weekend. Hopefully you have some fun plans. Maybe get outside and do a little hiking, a little biking, a little golfing. Get out with the dog. Get out of the house. I always just recommend that. But if you're going to hang out around the house, you got a lot of good sports to watch. The NBA playoffs will begin tomorrow. The Stanley Cup playoffs will begin this weekend. We got the RBC Heritage in the world of professional golf, and Real Salt Lake is back in action against San Diego. So a lot to do. The Utah Mammoth will open up their Stanley Cup playoff experience Sunday night against Vegas. We're going to get you ready for that game today, and we'll preview RSL San Diego. And, of course, next week, Lionel Messi is in town, a historic week for soccer fans here across the landscape of the market. So get a couple of play-in games tonight, and if the first couple of nights of play in action were any indicator, tonight should be a lot of fun. The Charlotte Hornets are a 3.5-point favorite, even though they're on the road at the Kia Center in Orlando to take on the Magic. The Magic just feels like they've imploded over the final few weeks of the season. This was a year where they were thought to maybe take a step up after acquiring Desmond Bane to add to Paolo Banchero. But the Hornets are the favorite, even though they're on the road. The Suns are the favorite in a much-anticipated matchup tonight as the Golden State Warriors, after shocking the L.A. Clippers, will be at the Mortgage Matchup Center in Phoenix, Arizona, where, like I said, the Suns are a slight favorite. Now, it opened up 1.5, but it's moved twice towards Phoenix. They're a 3.5-point favorite. A lot of money coming in on the Suns, thinking they can bounce back after losing to Portland at home. So we'll get you ready for the NBA play-in action tonight. And we'll do some playoffs today since it is a Friday show. And the next time you and I speak will be Monday after the weekend is behind us. Hawks, Knicks, Raptors, Cavs, Timberwolves, Nuggets, Rockets, Lakers, a little Durant and LeBron. That's your Saturday slate. Your Sunday slate will start in in Boston at the TD Garden with the Celtics and the 76ers. And then the winner of Suns Warriors will take on Oklahoma City. That's your early afternoon game. Magic Hornets winner will take on Detroit. That's your later afternoon window at about 4:30 at Little Caesars Arena. And then your night game is going to be the Blazers and the Spurs in San Antonio. So NBA playoffs, a lot of fun. One of my favorite times of the year, just because ultimately spring basketball reminds us why this game is really, really cool. Ryan Smith, owner of the Jazz and the Mammoth, was on Pat McAfee's show earlier today. Some interesting comments from Ryan. We'll get into some of this stuff on the show today. About this 4-year process that the Jazz have been undergoing to try to get back to competitive basketball, which they are thought to do next season. NBA lottery still a few weeks away, and we're still waiting the result of the coin flip that will tell us whether or not the Jazz are absolutely guaranteed to hold on to the asset, or is there that slight chance, which is very slight, 0.7%, that pick could fall to 9. But stranger things have happened. I think Dallas had less than a 2% chance of grabbing number 1 last year, and they did. Of course, that got him Cooper Flagg, a building block for the future, and allowed them to move off of Anthony Davis and look forward to the future. So, obviously, a lot at stake. The Utah Jazz have never moved up in the lottery. They've never won the lottery. As Ryan himself said today, at some point the math has to start mathing for the Jazz to get a little bit of lady luck, little lottery luck, in order to move up and maybe grab a franchise-changing piece. So we will get to the latest with the Jazz and the NBA and talk some NBA playoffs today. Will Anderson got paid. The Texans signed Will Anderson to a $150 million deal. It is the highest-paid contract that is not a quarterback in all the NFL. Speaking of the NFL, we are high speed ahead to the NFL draft here in just a few weeks now. Next week, actually, we'll have the NFL draft upon us, so we will learn where Caleb Lomu will go play pro football, Spencer Fano, and some of the other local prospects, hoping to hear their name called. The college basketball transfer portal is open, and Utah, a couple of additions we'll tell you about throughout the course of the show today. Tayson Chapman, former number 1 player from Minnesota and a former top 40 player nationally, has committed to play for Alex Jensen and the Utah Utes. So Alex continues to cobble together a roster, and hopefully next year a much more competitive situation than we saw year 1 in the Big 12. So an Ohio State transfer, he has committed to Utah, shot 47% from 3, averaged about 7 points a game for Ohio State. So obviously some Big Ten experience. Feeling bad for Terrence Brown today. Terrence Brown had a death in the family, so he's canceled his visit to Kentucky. And as of now, has paused all activity in his recruitment. Of course, Terrence had a really good year for Utah basketball. He was probably their best offensive player. And Keanu Dawes has landed in Kansas to play for the Kansas Jayhawks. So we'll get you the latest with the college basketball transfer portal. Of course, spring football concludes tomorrow with a little bit of a fan fest type situation. We'll tell you all the details on how you can go up and get some autographs and say hi to some Utah football players and coaches up at Rice-Eccles Stadium. Going to make my way over there tomorrow afternoon to kind of get a feel for what's going on. So excited for that. Spring ball comes to a close, and now we wait to see what this team looks like come fall for year 1 under Morgan Scalley in the Big 12. So a lot to do on the show. Good to have you guys with us. Thanks for making us part of your Friday. Happy weekend. Happy Friday. Our first guest today will be Howard Beck, right out of the gates, NBA Daily Assist style. We'll talk some NBA playoffs. We'll talk NBA awards season, as that's right around the corner, as Luka Doncic and Cade Cunningham won their appeals, so they are eligible for MVP, All-NBA and such. So we'll get Howard's take on that and maybe talk a little Jazz offseason with Howard Beck. The latest on Walker Kessler seems to be the biggest question mark about how the Jazz are going to continue to approach this build moving forward. So we're bringing Howard today. The president of soccer, period, Jason Kreis, is going to join us. It's an interesting title they elected to go with for Jay. The president of soccer for both Real Salt Lake and the Royals. We'll preview the weekend ahead for both RSL and the Utah Royals and talk some World Cup with Jay today. It's been an interesting 72-hour news cycle in the world of professional golf. All the indicators are that Live Golf will cease to exist at the end of this season. Scott O'Neill, their CEO, addressed some of the rumors as Live Golf is in Mexico. I will say this storyline actually it has informed me where Live is playing. I never know because I don't give a rip, but now I know that they're playing in Mexico because everybody's talking about it. But all indicators is that the public investment fund run by the Saudis and the financial backers of Live Golf, it's interesting because it seems like it's not just the public investment fund getting out of the game of golf. They sold their majority equity stake in a soccer club this week, and the rumors are they're just getting out of the sports business, period. And, of course, the RBC heritage going on. Matt Fitzpatrick has opened up a 3-shot lead over Victor Hovland, 4-shot lead over Harris English, Bob McIntyre, Ludwig Oberg. So we'll talk some PGA Tour as well and get Paul's thoughts on the Masters, of course, that took place last week. And the latest with our guy Tony Finau, who once upon a time played in the final group of a Masters in 2019 with a man named Eldrick Tiger Woods and was nowhere to be found at Augusta this time around. Obviously pulling for him to get back in the mix as soon as possible. Always pull for our local guys. Then excited to spend some time with Adrian Denny today. Live in studio for the 4 o'clock hour. The battle for Lord Stanley's Cup begins this weekend, and the Utah Mammoth are in the mix. Taking only 2 years here in Salt Lake. We're getting spoiled already by this hockey team, but we'll get to know Adrian Denny a little bit, and we'll get you ready for the Mammoth game coming up on Sunday. Howard Beck, Jason Kreis, Paul Pugmire, Adrian Denny. That is your program on this Friday afternoon. Me, Spence Checketts, all of you, the great listeners. Hello, how are you? Happy Friday. Thanks for being along for the ride. And fan of spring basketball, fan of NBA playoff basketball, Porter Larson producing the show. Hello, young man.
Finally, we're here. NCAA tournament's always fun, but for me, it is pro hoops, where the pinnacle of basketball. The 7-game series thing to me is perfect, and we get to see the best in the world actually compete for the next 3-4 weeks going into May and June. So excited for that. Few things from off the top.
What do we got?
Our guy Tony Finau.
Yeah,
not looking great after the Masters performance. He is currently, as of this moment, +8 on the tournament,
Oh, dear.
+4 on the day.
Oh, dear.
He is in 82nd out of 82 golfers.
That's not good.
At the RBC Heritage. So not the greatest golf from our guy Tony Finau at the moment. President of soccer joining the show today. If you were able to choose anything that you could be the president of, and relax, folks, I'm not getting political here. What would you be the president of?
Oh, I'd take over the country. Give me that job now.
I said that we weren't. Okay.
Well, I mean, you said. Wait.
I did say anything, but I was meaning like less, not necessarily on the political lane. But
you want to take politics off the table?
Yeah, let's go with it. United States of America.
Well, the answer is I would take over the job and bring us back. You know what? I would make America great again. That's what I would do.
Okay.
Just so you know.
There we go.
That's what I would do. Do you have an answer to that? Like the Bull Rider Federation of America, is that even a thing?
That'd be cool.
Alfalfa farmers stand up.
Huh. Yeah, the president of. Yeah, I may take your call.
You want to make America great again too?
But it's going to be very different. We're going to have very different platforms.
I have a lot of follow-up questions. I mean, you do have. I think you still have to get Congress involved in most decisions. Maybe you don't.
Not if I'm involved.
So you're just going full Trump, and you're just going to run in there and make all the decisions
and see who can, I guess, file some court cases to stop me. Yeah.
It's the president of something that would allow me to basically steal as much money from our country as Trump has stolen. I want to be a billionaire in a fraudulent way, the same way he has.
You want to be the president of crypto. You want to be the Satoshi guy or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know enough about crypto. I still don't. And Bitcoin and all the blockchains and such. My paycheck goes in my bank account, and I use my credit and debit cards the way that most Americans do. I don't know, man. Maybe I need to get into this a little bit.
I mean, it just gives you an avenue to use money without showing it on your documents, I guess.
So you don't pay taxes on crypto and blockchain or whatever?
I think there's some ways around it. Again, like you, not a big crypto guy. But.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll have to think. I mean, the answer is probably a basketball team, president of the Knicks or something. Go save that organization from that idiot owner.
President of the Knicks.
Potentially.
That would be, a Checketts doing that job. That'd be crazy.
Yeah. Well, he was actually a step up. So we're talking CEO of the Garden. So I wouldn't even get there. And I wouldn't want that job, man. That's
too much.
It is way too much. Anyway, text in. What would you be president of? Do we have anything to give listeners today? Do we have any tickets or anything?
We got some golf.
Okay.
We can go there.
877-353. What would you be president of? Porter will give you a ESPN 700 pen if you like your text.
We're going to Valley View is the golf.
No, you're giving that to me. I want the golf today if it's Valley View.
Can't.
All right. Howard Beck will be our first guest right out of the gates today. But before we bring in Howard, courtesy of our friends at IFA Country Stores, it is time now for your opening tip. I want to let you know that any drive to the basket begins with the first step on the court. That's the ultimate power move. IFA Step 1 Crabgrass Preventer and Lawn Food is the first choice to give your yard the healthy, thick green look you admire. The neighbors will be green with envy. Shop IFA online at ifa.coop or stop by one of their neighborhood stores today. Porter, do you recall when Cleveland traded Darius Garland for James Harden?
Yes.
Do you remember?
Wasn't that long ago.
Do you remember what I thought that indicated?
That Cleveland was probably looking to, if not make one last-ditch run at it, kind of break things down after those contracts are up.
Well, Fred Katz is reporting that the Cleveland Cavaliers will look to trade Donovan Mitchell this summer because they do not believe that he's going to sign a contract extension.
Sounds familiar.
So that is out there. And look, it's just, I want to mostly talk playoffs, but this is the worst-kept secret in the NBA landscape, certainly with Donovan here, and had a great 5-6 year run here. I mean, that's undeniable. He should have been Rookie of the Year. Went to Ben Simmons, who wasn't even a rookie. But he simply wants to end up like Gordon Hayward did. My assertion with Gordon Hayward was always two things. A, he wanted to play for his college coach, and B, he wanted to sit at a different lunch table. He wanted to be in a bigger city. He wanted to be thought of as a LeBron Durant type superstar player. And in fairness to Gordon, I mean, injuries did derail his career. He was never going to be a top 5 player in pro basketball, but he could have played his way up into that upper echelon of NBA superstars if he would have stayed healthy. and continue to put in the work. He just wanted to live in a different city, and he wanted to sit at a different lunch table. And in so many ways, that is who Donovan Mitchell continues to be. It's not about Salt Lake. It's not about Cleveland. Look, if you think Salt Lake is not a great place to live, have you ever spent an extended period of time in Cleveland, Ohio? I mean, you can only go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and eat at Chili's so much. It is a atrocious NBA market. It is not a great city. So it's not like Donovan found a home there. The New York Knicks signed Jalen Brunson and traded for Mikal Bridges. And so, yeah, Donovan signed a couple of year extension in Cleveland. There was nowhere else to go. It was how he was going to make the most amount of money. And the team that he continues to want just doesn't want him. And maybe that will change if a couple of things fall into place, because it's interesting to consider what's at stake here for the New York Knicks as they take on the Atlanta Hawks and Quinn Snyder in their playoff best-of-7 matchup. Atlanta started playing much better down the stretch, and there are stretches where New York looks really good, and there are stretches where they just look lost on defense because they fired a great defensive coach and brought in a very average coach in Mike Brown. If Atlanta upsets New York in the first round of the playoffs, New York will have a decision to make. And if Donovan Mitchell continues to want the Knicks, then there's probably a deal that could be worked out between the Knicks and the Cavs. But Donovan currently is doing to Cleveland what he did to Salt Lake, okay? He was raised to be a professional athlete, and he's very polished, and he always says the right things in the media, but he's also surrounded by a very savvy team. Did you ever think it was odd that every time Donovan was at a 4th of July party, there was a story in the news about it? Or once Donovan stopped at the side of the road to help somebody who had a broken down car and somehow there were pictures taken and leaked of it? Like, Donovan's team is very calculated to make Donovan look a certain way. Now, let me be clear about this. He is an incredibly good player. And every time I watch Donovan drop 35 and 40 for Cleveland, it makes me wonder what could have been here if that group could have acted like adults and grown-ups and figured it out. I don't know that they were ever a championship team as constituted back then, but they were close. They were really close. Just couldn't get it done in the postseason. A couple of adjustments. I mean, John and Carl didn't make the finals until their mid-30s. And there were some really good Jazz teams in the early 90s. But you continue to tinker. You continue to make some trades. You continue to draft. Boom, you trade for a Jeff Hornacek. And then suddenly your role pieces fit in with your superstar players, and you got a shot to win a title. Donovan and Rudy were not John and Carl, but they're two franchise-changing pieces in the prime of their career, and you decided to move on from them. And I understand why. Okay, we're not going to relitigate that. We've covered it extensively on this show. But ultimately, now the Cavs are sitting here in this spot, and I'm telling you, when that trade went down, my antennas went up right away. I'm listening to NBA people. I'm watching NBA Today. I'm listening to a bunch of talk show hosts break down how Cleveland's going to try to make a run with James Harden in the playoffs. To which I said, have you ever watched James Harden in the playoffs? He is famous for tapping out when things get hard. He is infamous for quitting on his team in the postseason. If your goal is to make a run in the playoffs, you do not trade for James Harden. Darius Garland younger and in a lot of ways probably a better fit for that team. Now, look, Harden is a transcendent offensive talent, a former MVP and a Hall of Famer, but his playoff failures are spectacular and obvious and well documented. That trade was made, in my opinion, to get off of Garland's money. Harden is on an expiring deal with the knowledge that I'm sure they had behind the scenes that Donovan Mitchell simply doesn't want to live in Cleveland and doesn't want to play basketball for the Cavs. It's been a good run for him there. He's become an all-NBA player, a perennial superstar. His brand is shot through the roof because, again, it's very carefully cultivated. But with the report today that, if they can't agree to a contract extension, they're going to move on from him, is no surprise. Because Brooklyn's in full rebuild, so Brooklyn off the table is an option. New York signs Jalen Brunson. They bring in Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, that entire group, OG Anunoby, and there's no money left for Donovan. If New York loses in the first round of the postseason and the Cavs, maybe they struggle with the Raptors and Donovan won't agree to an extension, that's the trade that will be made this offseason. And it's surprising to me not a lot of people are talking about it because when I saw the report, I wasn't too surprised at all. All right, a couple of games tonight. I think both will be, well, it's interesting to consider the Hornets Magic. So these two teams have played 4 times this year. The Hornets are 3-1 against the Magic. They beat them by an average of 15 points, and they've scored 120 points in all 4 games they played. I actually think Charlotte wins that one. Con Knippel has to start shooting better. The LaMelo Ball experience is wild, but give me Charlotte tonight in Orlando. And the night game is very intriguing. Dylan Brooks, of course, is known for bullying Steph Curry. Devin Booker wasn't great against Portland. I kind of let Jalen Green do the thing. I actually am leaning Phoenix. I would like to see Golden State win because I want to watch Steph as long as I possibly can. But I'll take Phoenix at home, and I'll take Charlotte on the road. We'll get to some other NBA topics coming up with Howard Beck. So Jason Christ, Paul Pugmire, Adrian Denny, we got a jam-packed show, but we'll continue talking some ball coming up with our buddy Howard Beck, NBA Daily Assist style, on a Friday drive on ESPN 700. NBA play-in continues tonight. And if the first couple of nights are any indicator, we're in for a lot of fun. So we'll see. Charlotte, slight favorite over Orlando, and Phoenix is a favorite at home against the Golden State Warriors. Our next guest, NBA Daily Assist on a Friday. Howard Beck, happy Friday, buddy. How we doing?
All right, Spence. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Look, the NBA certainly tells us a couple of things when they're criticized, which are we signed a $72 billion TV deal and you still love the playoffs. Well, they're not wrong. First couple of nights of the play-in, Tuesday, Wednesday, a lot of fun. Just your main takeaways from the first two play-in nights, then we'll kind of get to the weekend stuff.
Yeah, I mean, a lot already happened, and we had a bunch of really good games. And, not every play-in has been great since they instituted it, but I think we've had more often than not some really great games that like the heightened suspense of one and done of win or go home. You don't get that in the NBA normally, and people love it at the college level. I know that some people like the kind of the NBA framework of everything should just be a best of seven or best of whatever, but man, it amps it up. And yeah, the stakes are a little contrived because it's just a competition to see who gets to be first round cannon fodder for the most part. None of these, games ultimately are going to matter in the sense that these are 7th and 8th seeds, and 7th and 8th seeds lose like 98% of the time. But it gives us some moments, and I think it's really important when it gives us moments like the Golden State Warriors, who were left for dead. And everybody, no matter whether you're a Warriors fan or not, who doesn't love Steph Curry going off in a fourth quarter and pulling, a miracle off? And on top of that, Draymond Green locking up Kawhi Leonard, like just showing us why we all were so enamored of or impressed by in awe of this team throughout their golden era. And, that era is probably over. But you see a night like that and you think, man, Steph can still bring it. And Draymond can still bring it. And look, Kristaps Porzingis actually fits really well with them if they can re-sign him and he gets a full season. And Al Horford, 100 years old, but man, he can still do something. And then you think, well, what if Jimmy Butler comes back? You don't have to be a Warriors fan to start having the wheels turn and think, man, this team is a lot of fun still. And when everybody's healthy, which is a massive if when you have guys that age. But it gave us that. And so that's my main takeaway is about the Warriors. But yeah, there's what an almost perfect coda for the Clippers in a year where they've been investigated for cap circumvention, and Kawhi Leonard, who's the cause of it all, gets locked up in a fourth quarter, and that's the end of their season. The Bam Adebayo LaMelo Ball thing we could get into if you want, but it's been really good. And tonight will be, hopefully just as exciting as what we've seen all week. Yeah,
I do want to get into the LaMelo Bam stuff. I got a couple of follow-ups after getting your overall takeaways. Is there any doubt that was dirty and he should have been ejected? Is there an alternate take to that?
The alternate take that I would offer is this. In real time, kind of hard to tell. There was one camera angle in particular that gave me the most pause, which was, I think it was kind of an overhead angle where you can see LaMelo, and this all happens like bang, bang, right? It's pretty quick. But at one point, LaMelo was looking directly at Bam just as he's putting his hand up to grab his leg. And so if you want to read premeditation into it or some kind of ill intent, you could do that. I'm looking at this. I'm not saying it wasn't a flagrant. It was definitely a flagrant. And I think had it been called in real time, I think it would have been a flagrant 1. We can get into why that is. They made it a flagrant 2 retroactive. No suspension, obviously, just a fine. But in real time, he hits the deck, LaMelo. He's prone. There's a lot of cases in the NBA where a guy's on the floor and another guy's up in the air over them, and your first instinct is to reach out to make sure you don't get kicked or landed on or whatever. You're protecting yourself. Is that what was happening, or is it the slow motion version of it where it looks like LaMelo's actually helping upend Bam and then putting him in that vulnerable position where he hits hard and is injured? I try not to read intent into these situations unless it's a guy who's got a track record, right? Like Dylan Brooks has a bit of a track record. Goga Batadze at this point has a bit of a track record. I know people are now finding a LaMelo clip from a year ago or something where he got into Bam in a different context, in a different situation. I don't know. It's hard to say that LaMelo was trying to hurt him or trying to make him, fall in a way that was frankly dangerous. And it's unfortunate that the referees did not have in that situation the ability to review it in real time.
I'll tell you what, that the Wizards Blazers trade where the Blazers get Denny Avila, like that is turned out to be an incredible deal for them. They traded a lottery pick in Malcolm Brogdon and, another first in a couple of seconds. But he's turned into a much better player, Howard, than I ever thought he could be. And the Suns couldn't do anything with him. I mean, what are your takeaways from watching the Blazers beat the Suns and Denny going for 41, 12, and 7?
Denny Avdia's had a fantastic year.
Yeah.
Mostly below the radar just because no one's paying attention to the Portland Trail Blazers for the most part outside of Portland. But, I mean, for a season that began with their coach being, rung up for, an illegal gambling scheme 2 games into the season, and then an interim coach in Tiago Splitter taking over. Like they've had a really nice run, 42-40, and it's not like they're stacked with talent. Denny Avdia, a former lottery pick of the Wizards, who they get for a song really. Washington, I think, despite the teardown, which may become successful by a lottery pick to come here, you have to chalk that up as a mistake. That and Ryan Rollins. They also had Ryan Rollins and waived him a couple of years ago before Milwaukee picked him up. They've made some mistakes. Like it's one thing to tear down because you want high picks. It's another thing when you're a rebuilding team to actually give up young talent that might actually click. And they gave up too soon on both of these guys. Avdia has been great. He was on the bubble of my All-NBA teams when I was filling out ballots. And I think I put him second maybe in the most improved. He's been phenomenal, and now they have somebody to build around. It was supposed to be Shaedon Sharpe. It was supposed to be Scoot Henderson. And it's not really. Those guys are good, and they are contributing in important ways. But the centerpiece of that team now is firmly Denny Avdia.
I'm going to sneak in a Jazz question, and I will not ask you about the Bezim Bang Oscar Shibwe pick and roll, but I will ask who's a better player, Howard, Markkanen or Avila?
Oh, interesting. It's a little unfair in that Avdia is still on his way up. Markkanen is kind of established. Markkanen has hit some heights maybe that Avdia hasn't yet, but I think I lean Avdia because in today's NBA, having a guy at that size who can be essentially your point forward and that hard to guard, like we see the value of that all the time in today's NBA, right? Like the bigger ball handlers who can play make and score and get to the rim is super important. And I'm not saying Markkanen can't do some of those same things. I think that Avdia's got a little bit more physical game to him and is more of a playmaker, frankly. I like that archetype to build around.
So here's why I ask. Of course, we're only looking ahead to next season after this 4-year nightmare is now over. And you hear a lot of conversation around town about what the Jazz could be next year. And media members that cut a paycheck from Ryan Smith are talking home court advantage and, top 4 team in the West. There's no way I believe that type of jump is possible. But I look at Portland. I look at Portland and Charlotte, 42 wins, 44 wins, maybe win a play-in game, as what I perceive to be a reasonable expectation for the Jazz next year. And we can get into some other things. But if I asked you your opinion on what the ceiling looks like for them next year, what would you say?
Obviously, all pending the lottery and who they draft.
Right.
And look, there's free agency to come. There may be trades. We will have this discussion again probably in July and again in October. The Jazz are not making the playoffs next year. I'm sorry. Like it just something catastrophic would have to happen to multiple teams. And we always do this exercise. I may have done it on your show before, so apologies to listeners if I have. But the Thunder, the Spurs, the Nuggets, that's 3 teams that aren't going anywhere. So now you have 3 more guaranteed playoff spots. A Laker team built around Luka is not going anywhere. A Rockets team that has Şengün and Durant and Amen Thompson is not going anywhere. The Timberwolves aren't going anywhere. That's 6 teams. So now we're in play-in range. Portland's already ahead of you. Now, could the Jazz leapfrog Portland? Maybe. We'll see what the Suns do, but they've already got Devin Booker and some other talent. the Clippers are the ones, like, if you're looking to where you can break in, it's the Clippers-Warriors tier, right? The Clippers, who knows, does Kawhi Leonard's contract get voided after the investigation? There's been plenty of conversation about will the Clippers maybe just trade him anyway with 1 year left on his deal. The Warriors are among the teams that have been rumored to be interested in him. So the Clippers could go into like a pseudo rebuild. They still, they got Darius Garland and Benedict Mathurin and some other players. So we'll see. But like, could the Clippers fall back? Maybe. The Warriors, if they're healthy, again, we're right back to it. But if they're healthy, I'll take a 38-year-old Steph, Draymond, Jimmy Butler, Kristaps Porzingis over whatever the Jazz are going to have, at least for one more year. And then there's all the teams they still have to leapfrog besides, because the Pelicans have a terrible record but have a bunch of talent. And the Mavericks have Cooper Flagg and are about to get another, presumably another high pick. The Grizzlies and Kings, have at it. The Jazz can leapfrog them. But after that, pretty steep.
Yep, and here's one more thing here, because I find this pretty fascinating. They're paying Markkanen 46-1 next year. They're paying Jaren Jackson Jr. 49. All the rumors about Kessler is he's going to land in the 25-ish million range. So if they match that, you add Kessler at 25, and then Keontae George is extension eligible next year. And if he continues to play the way he did this year, that's another 20, 25 mil player potentially. So if they match Kessler and re-sign Keontae, they're saying this is our group. And the calculation to me when it comes to the market and stuff simply sounds like this. Okay, you can throw the Pistons 2004 at me all you want. Congratulations, you found one team in 60 years that didn't have one of those dudes. And so I think Lowry's still their best player. Maybe Ace can grow into something that resembles a top 10, 15 player. You can make an argument that they don't have one top 20 player on their team, depending on where you think Jaren Jackson Jr. and Lowry Markkanen fall. To your point, the lottery could change all of that. But if they don't get lady lottery luck and they end up with 4, 5, or 6, this is the group, isn't it, Howard? And so who? I'm getting greedy here because we're finally going to have a team that's serious about trying to win next year. But if you're talking about hanging banners and you're telling everybody this is our team, what message are you sending to the rest of the league? Who are they long term?
Yeah, I mean, who they are long term is whoever they're drafting. I mean, that has been the point of the exercise this entire time, because we already, Markkanen's probably already hit his ceiling, and Jaren Jackson Jr.'s already hit his ceiling. They're going to, and they've got to, we still have to see those guys play together long term, and with Walker Kessler in there as well. And let's see what Ace Bailey becomes, and let's see what Keontae George continues to evolve into. But the veterans are who they are now, and everything is really about this lottery pick. Let's be honest. It's that and maybe Ace Bailey, maybe the most recent lottery pick. So between the pick to come, the most recent pick Bailey, and then Keontae George, you've got 3 young guys who maybe are the future more so than the veterans that they've, acquired, the Markkanens and Jaren Jackson Jr.'s. But I don't know what the ceiling on that is, because we don't know who their upcoming pick is. But you need to have at least one top 20 player, to your point. Hopefully a top 10 player. Those are harder to get. Does AJ Debinsa or whoever they end up landing become that guy? If so, then cool, you're set. If not, is this group enough? I mean, it's good, it's solid, and they'll be much more competitive. But, without knowing what's going to happen over the next few months, their ceiling right now next season would be play-in team that probably loses. But, that's fine, too. If you're in a multi-year rebuild, year one coming out of that rebuild usually means, trying to just get to 500. Maybe you make a play-in or playoff, and then you lose, and then you come back the next year and try to keep improving.
So when Cleveland traded for James Harden, Howard, I believe you and I spoke about this. My antennas went up for the following reason. I was with the Jazz broadcast team for 8 years, and 5 of those years was the Donovan Mitchell experience. And look, he's awesome. There's no debate there. But I was, abreast to what was going on behind the scenes when it became very clear that he no longer simply wanted to live here. And that's fine. One of the weird things about professional sports is we tell these people who are the best in the world at what they do, you live in Salt Lake now, whether you like it or not. So, okay, there's the deal. He doesn't want Cleveland. He's never wanted Cleveland. I know that for a fact. The Knicks signed Jalen Brunson and they trade for Mikal Bridges. So, his New York dreams probably died for a minute. That's why he signed a mini extension with Cleveland. Brooklyn's rebuilding. They're not going to bring in Mitchell. So the New York stuff that I know that he wants just was off the table. But Fred Katz from The Athletic is reporting today that the Cavs don't think they're going to come to an agreement on an extension with him and therefore will look to move him. And I believe they traded for Harden to get off of Garland's money and let Harden expire because they saw this coming and are going to go into full rebuild mode. I mean, that's how I read that entire thing. Just give me your thoughts on the Fred Katz stuff today, the report that the Cavs might move off him.
Fred's a great reporter, and I'll take whatever he had, which I have not read it yet. I saw a quick headline earlier. I'll take it to the bank, though. Fred knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Cleveland's been really sensitive about this ever since Donovan got there because there's been speculation, within 5 minutes after he landed there that, hey, this is not going to be long-term. It's not where he wants to be, all that stuff. And then they started winning, and it was clear he was happy. They were happy enough. But as you and I know, he's never been out of the second round. And I had concerns about the Mitchell-Garland backcourt. They now have the Mitchell-Harden backcourt. And it's different, but some of the same potential concerns. And, is Evan Mobley ever going to become, more of a viable, multi-skilled offensive player and not just a defensive hub? Like, it feels like they have kind of bumped up against their limits with what was that original core four and now a different core four with Harden in place of Garland. And so if Donovan's getting antsy again, like I don't know if I can win here and I didn't want to land here in the first place, like that would be understandable. It wouldn't be surprising. I'm sure they're going to be hypersensitive about it in Cleveland again. I haven't seen any quotes out of there yet today, but as this stuff starts to swirl during the playoffs, I'm sure they will not be particularly happy about it, but this is the way the league works. Everybody is always looking for a crack in somebody else's facade and looking for a way to poach their best players, especially when they're in smaller markets, and that's just the reality of things.
So with my belief that he wants New York and always has, the Knicks have been an interesting team this year because at times they've looked really, really good, and at times they've looked really confused defensively. I don't think Atlanta's going to beat them, but Atlanta's played better over the past couple of months. Our guy Quinn Snyder coaching that team. If they either lose in the first round or the first round's close and they're ousted in the second, is there a world where the Knicks call Cleveland? I don't know that Jalen and Donovan work together, really, quite frankly, but do you look at a Bridges, Hart, whatever? I don't even know what draft capital New York has. They usually have none. But if the Knicks struggle, is there a world that you could see where New York tries to make a play for Mitchell?
Most of the Knicks draft capital, at least, or all of it at the time, I'd have to look to see what they now have available. But at the moment that they traded for Bridges, all their draft capital went to the Nets.
Yeah.
So they're not in a great position. And also, like, the Knicks are looking for Giannis. Like, that's it. Like, everything is going to start and end there. And if they can't land Giannis, then maybe they'll have discussions about somebody else. Donovan Mitchell and Brunson do not make sense together to me. I don't think the Knicks would think so either. I do think that, we're all kicking around the same thing that you just talked about, which is, especially after the owner goes on radio in January and says championship or bust, like if the Knicks fall short, there's going to be, what to pay.
Yep.
And something's going to happen. I don't see this core getting another year. And that probably means Towns going out and or Bridges going out. I think Brunson and OG Anunoby and Josh Hart are kind of the mainstays. But yeah, I think there's a lot on the line for the Knicks in this run.
You think that dope will ever sell the team, that little weirdo, so he can just go play his kazoo at the Sphere? I don't even think he likes owning the Knicks.
I don't either. He's never seemed happy. It's interesting because, today's NBA owners, so many of them are very visible. And there are a lot that just aren't visible at all, that you just never see. But the ones that are front and center, that park themselves courtside, usually, like Ballmer obviously is an incredibly boisterous individual. Mark Cuban over the years, Matt Ishbia. Like, there are guys who you really see getting into it. And Dolan, every time the cameras pan, he's either looks like he's half asleep or he's just got his arms folded and he's slouching in his baseline seat. I don't know why he owns the team other than the status, and that's really it. It's status. Like, what else is he getting out of it? Other than, according to a Wired story that was published today, and also Pablo Torre's podcast partnered with them on this, but there's a whole new story about the depths and the lengths that the Garden has gone to use facial recognition technology in nefarious ways. Can't understand how the NBA thinks this is okay for one of its franchises. It's one of its biggest, most important, most historic franchises to do this. I don't know how that comports with league values, but Adam Silver doesn't seem to ever want to touch the Knicks or cross Dolan. So, wild stuff. And no, I don't think he's selling anytime soon.
What do you think happens tonight? Hornets slight favorite on the road over the Magic, 3-1 against Orlando in the regular season. Warriors 3-1 against the Suns regular season, but the last 3 games were decided by like 7 or 8 points. But Phoenix is a slight favorite at home. Who you like tonight, Howard?
I'm not great with the predictions usually, but Orlando looks like a team that just wants to go home. Like they're tired of everything, of each other, of their coach perhaps. The buzzers have been swirling over Jamal Mosley for a while now. Everybody's been expecting that he's, going to get cut loose. And, the Magic, in addition to being banged up, it just seems like bad fits, bad chemistry. So I would take the Hornets in that one. And look, the Suns have had a really nice season, much better than any of us expected. And the Warriors are, despite everything they did the other night, they are still old. And is it enough recovery time? Probably. If the Warriors can play like they did the other night, they're winning tonight. Like, the Suns are not the highest, most sophisticated basketball IQ team. When Jalen Green's taking like 10 more shots than Devin Booker, that's probably a bad sign. But, that's kind of the way that team is built. I don't have a lot of faith in the Suns. I think if the Warriors can play up to their standards and have had enough time to recover, I think they win it.
Do you see any upsets in the East? We'll start in the East. Most likely upset that you think could happen in the postseason Eastern Conference?
So rule out the 4-5s because those aren't really upsets usually. Yeah. I mean, like, it's a little different this year. Like, Cleveland's a 6-win difference over Toronto. So that would be an upset more so than the usual, right? But like, the Rockets over the Lakers wouldn't be an upset because there was only 1 win difference between them in the regular season anyway. So I usually am looking at the 3-6s or the 2s and the 1s. I just don't see, and obviously we're still waiting for some matchups to settle in here, but like, the Trailblazers aren't knocking out the Spurs. I think they'll give them a nice fight, but like, that's not happening. The Thunder will beat whoever the 8th seed in the West is. Pistons Hornets is the one that has potential. If the Hornets, emerge from this last playing game, Pistons Hornets, they brawled earlier this season. They don't much like each other, and the Hornets are just such an unpredictable team, and they wouldn't be your average 8th seed because by record and by net rating and other advanced metrics since about January 2nd, the Hornets have been one of the best teams in the NBA for a 3-month span. So they're not going to be your average 8th seed. I think that could be a battle. I don't think it'll be an upset, but I do think it'll be a battle. Maybe they even take them to 7. You mentioned Hawks-Knicks. I think there's at least the potential there. Like, the Knicks are kind of funky. It's hard to gauge them sometimes. So I've got my eye on that one. I've seen some people pick Wolves over Nuggets. I don't see that one happening. I think, again, it'll be a fight, but I think the Nuggets win.
Gordy Chiesa in studio yesterday picked Denver to win the West. I think most everybody is on the OKC Spurs, take in that direction. But if there is a team of the rest of the group out here, I mean, Denver's got to be the one you look at, yeah?
Yeah, my editors made me do a prediction again.
I saw
this week.
I saw.
So my preseason prediction that they also made me do, and when I say made me, they make me do a prediction. They don't tell me what the prediction should be. They just, make me have to do something and put it in print. I went Nuggets over Cavs preseason. thinking the Cavs would be better than they were, not counting on the Celtics or the Pistons doing what they did. So I updated that this week to Nuggets over Celtics. My argument is simply that I'll take the field in this day and age of incredible parity and nobody repeating anymore. And the Thunder have been pretty banged up all year. It's not clear that Jalen Williams is all the way back. Like, it's been fits and starts for him, and he had a horrible three-point shooting season. So they're not quite as impervious as maybe they seemed a year ago. They're more experienced now. They've got a championship under their belt. But, it's hard. There's a war of attrition you're fighting when you're a defending champ in this league or when you've had long playoff runs. So I'm taking Denver just based on almost like the odds, based on trends, not because I think that they're outright better. But they can beat them, and I think the Spurs can beat them. I think there's a true three-way battle in the Western Conference, and I love it. I can't wait to see Spurs Nuggets in the second round, which is how they line up, assuming that neither of them does get pulled, does get upset. And then, one of those two is facing the Thunder in the conference finals.
Few minutes left here, and then I'll set you loose. And as a voter, I will ask you, is there any intrigue about MVP, or is it going to be Shea?
I think it's probably Shea based on all the Tim Bontemps polls all season. I think that there maybe will be, some people moving in the last, over the course of the last couple of weeks, did some people start shifting toward Jokic or maybe Wembanyama? Does the reintroduction after they won their appeals of Luka and Cade Cunningham change anything? Like, probably not. I think those guys are both down ballot, but like Luka could steal a few first place votes. Like, I think ultimately the majority of first place votes are distributed amongst Jokic and Shea, with Shea getting more of them and Shea probably winning.
Okay, before I set you loose, most intriguing award. It feels like Wembanyama is going to win Defensive Player of the Year. Maybe Rookie of the Year is a little compelling. Coach of the Year. Most the closest, the hardest decision for you is how I'll put that. What was that?
MVP was really tough, and Rookie of the Year was really tough. And I don't remember Rookie of the Year ever being this hard.
Yeah.
The Concanipple Cooper Flag thing, for months already, I've been torn, and I flip-flopped even over the course of the last week of the season. We didn't actually have to file ballots till today because the NBA had to wait until they settled all the appeals on the 65-game rule. And it was a struggle. Their cases are so dramatically different. Cooper Flag being a do-it-all, multi-skilled player on a team bereft of talent right now with a lot on his shoulders, but able, just like his skill set is incredible, off the charts. And he put up some numbers at times that, rivaled things that no one had done as a rookie since Michael Jordan. And then Knipple, not as skilled of a player and less burden on him. He's third to fourth option on that team at times, but he just put up the greatest shooting season by a rookie ever, the greatest three-point shooting season, and led the league in three-pointers and helped the Hornets become a winning team. Winning doesn't usually matter for Rookie of the Year because the best rookies are usually on the worst teams. But in this case, Concanipple actually contributed to a team becoming good. And so their cases are just so dramatically different that you can spin yourself in circles, as I did.
Yeah, look, it's definitely a tough one, and obviously, Knipple really fell down the stretch. But look, man, I appreciate the time for this Friday. We'll set you loose. Enjoy the games. We'll chat soon. Thank you, Howard.
All right, Spence, take care.
Buddy Howard Beck from The Ringer, one of my favorite NBA writers for 20, 25 years. He does excellent work. Brought to you by friends at Uinta Golf today. The Uinta Golf PGA update. Swing into Uinta Golf for the new Titleist Vokey SM11 wedges. The new Vokey SM11 wedges are tour-inspired to have optimized flight, improved spin performance, and tour-level grinds. The PGA Tour is at the RBC Heritage, beautiful golf course in South Carolina. And Matt Fitzpatrick went low today. He carded a 63, and that is good for your leader. He is 14 under par. Victor Hovland still on the course. He's through 15, but he's 11 under for second place. Harris English at 10 under. Then it's Patrick Cantlay, Sepp Straka, Ludwig Oberg at 9 under par, Kurt Kitayama, Aldrich Potgeider, Keegan Bradley, Bob McIntyre, Ricky Fowler, Michael Benjamin, all at 8 under par. Scotty Scheffler's in the field. He's at 7 under, as is Colin Morikawa. Unfortunately, the last place golfer, literally 82nd place out of 82 golfers, is Tony Finau, who continues to struggle to find his game. We'll catch a break and we will get you ready for RSL San Diego and talk a little World Cup action coming up with Jason Christ, the president of soccer, right here on ESPN 700. RSL back in action. San Diego is in town, a very quality side, as the Western Conference in Major League Soccer is jam-packed. RSL off to the second best start in team history, and their best start, I think, since 2011. But they got company in the Western Conference, and San Diego's a really, really good team. So right now, RSL is sitting at fourth. San Diego 3-2-2. These two teams played not too long ago to a 2-2 draw. The game is at 7:30 in Sandy, and you can see that on Apple Television before Lionel Messi rolls into town. So we will get you ready for the RSL match and, of course, talk a little World Cup. World Cup is right around the corner, just a handful of weeks away, coming up in June. Diego Luna got his first start of the season last time we saw RSL. The matchup last week was canceled. I think Seattle had some CONCACAF stuff or something like that. So we'll see if the momentum can continue. And joining us now is the president of all of soccer. President of soccer, Jason Kreis, on a Friday. How lucky are we? Hello, Jason. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good, buddy. Thanks for the time. So the rescheduling last week, why was that? Seattle, was it a CONCACAF game for Seattle?
It was a mixture of two things, yeah. First, the schedule congestion. Once they advanced to the next round of the CONCACAF Champions Cup, they had to have another home game on their field. That, coupled with FIFA only allowing them to have so many games on that grass surface that they placed down for the World Cup, meant that we had to move ours.
Ah, I see. Okay. Well, I would imagine another weekend break is a good thing to get healthy, but also there's an argument to be made that with the form you're in, you want to keep playing, yeah? Hello?
I lost you. Are you there?
Yeah. So basically, I was just asking you about the dynamic of having a weekend off. Probably good to get healthy, but when you're playing well, you want to keep the momentum riding, yeah?
Yeah. I felt like last weekend's game, 2 weekends ago, from having the week before off as well for the international break. So you're always going to want to get some rhythm, especially when things are going well. But it has allowed us to get some guys back and healthy and now available.
And where are we at in that process, Jay? Obviously, Emeka's out for a long time, but outside of Emeka, the health of the team right now sounds like what?
Yeah, headed in a really good direction. DeAndre Yedlin is back and available. And Arias is now training full. Kobe Henry is back training full. And so we've got 3 or 4. There's one more that I'm drawing a blank on at the moment. Oh, yeah, it's Zach Booth, who had a slight injury, is now back and available as well. So we've got 3 or 4 guys that are coming into full fitness if they're not there already.
Did Jay Glad pick up a little knock last game? It looked like he picked up something with maybe a knee knock.
He did that. It was like a moment, I think, in the first or second. I can't remember first or second half, but it was there where he kind of got pushed into the camera that's at the middle of the field. So he dealt with that for a while, but now is, I think, back and fully available for this weekend.
So as I referenced, coming in second best start in club history, I think the best start since 2011. What do you like most through 6 matches, Jay?
What I like most is that there's not a sense of complacency. There's been a lot of good things. But what's really nice is that the entire group, not just coaching staff, but players included, feels like there's more to give and more to be done. And you're always going to like that when you're performing well, but everybody is hungry for more.
So how do you get better? I mean, every time you hop on the show, there are definitely things that you point to, whether it's an individual player or just the group. Again, really bright start. The areas that need to improve. What does that sound like?
I think it ends up being in both penalty boxes. I think that we can still be a little more clinical. I think we're creating a really high number of high-quality goal chances, but we're also not completing a high percentage of those goal chances. So I think there's more goals to be scored for this group. I think defensively, we've allowed some soft goals, and I think there's moments in the game where I feel like we're still probably not quite as focused as we should be. The other thing that's out there is we haven't had a shutout yet this season. So I would like to see a real concerted effort for some improvement on that in the defensive side.
So we've discussed at length, quite frankly, all of the signings that you made in the offseason and kind of honed in on the individual and the talents they have. I don't know that I've asked you this though. Did you decide prior to the signings? Did you decide what you wanted to do concerning the formation and adjusting the style of play? And were the players brought in specifically to fit this system, if that makes sense? I mean, did you go about your business analyzing talent to make sure the signings were fitting the type of style you wanted to play?
Yeah, absolutely. We first and foremost, as you mentioned, first sat with Pablo and the coaching staff at the end of the season and said, what do we collectively feel should be our game model or our tactical shape going forward, based upon the players that we know we have right now and the most important players. And we all collectively decided a bit of more balanced 3-2-4-1, both in possession and out of possession, was the direction we needed to go. And then looking at it and saying, okay, where are the holes in this system and where do we really need to get better? And then so you have positional profiles then, and you go out and you recruit to those positional profiles. And so far, it seems that we've done a pretty decent job.
So Diego gets his first start of the year, and he tallies a really good goal, preferred left foot in the first 20 minutes. Your thoughts on the way he looked when we last saw you guys, and then attendant to the question is, as a result of scoring against Sporting Kansas City, I don't know what conversations with the U.S. men's national team sound like. I don't know if they call you. I don't know if they call his agent. I don't know if they call him. Is there any indicator that he's back on the radar to maybe make this squad as the announcement of the roster is just about a month away now?
Yeah, really, really pleased for Diego to come back and score so early in that game in his first start of the season. I think as the game wore on, you saw a fatigued player. And so we understand that he's probably not operating at 100% fitness level at the moment, but we'll continue to work with him to build that back up. And certainly, all you have to do is listen to all the media and follow stuff on social media and listen to the MLS folks on Apple TV to recognize that, that sort of performance and scoring a goal gets him the headline that should put him back in squarely in the focus of the U.S. men's national team coaching staff.
So since we're in the space, how does that work? Does somebody call you and say, hey, we're interested in bringing Diego back? Do they just contact the player? What does that system look like?
Yeah, it's. I would say that relationships are different with every coaching staff that's in there. The current one right now, I would say that we at Real Salt Lake and me personally don't have a lot of contact with. They're not a coaching staff or an organization right now that is looking for a lot of two-way communication, at least for our club. And I do know in the past that they've had conversations with Diego, conversations with Emeka. A little bit more just on from their perspective to the player's perspective. So typically it's always going to be a mix. We as a club are always going to get notified if the player is in what they call a provisional roster, which usually comes out a month or so before the games, and then again if he's made the final roster. So we have to be notified from those perspectives, but we're still a ways away from either of those types of communications as it relates to the World Cup.
The current state of the men's national team, not just the senior team, but the entire program. I believe they had a top level executive just quit to take a job with the Saudis. And you're a guy that was in that ecosystem and knows the ins and outs of it. And you were friends with Greg and, you were part of it. You hear a lot of conversation about expectation and what we should look for here in this World Cup cycle. But if we pan back, Jay, and look at the entire program, are we doing a good enough job of not just evaluating but developing young talent?
I think we are, Spence. I mean, you wouldn't really get a good sense of that unless you go and watch the youth academies right now. When you go to watch the RSL Youth Academy play against, for instance, an LAFC or an LA Galaxy or Seattle Sounders Academy, I see real market improvement in where we're at right now versus where we were when I first started coaching in MLS, however many years ago that was. I think we're doing a real nice job of developing the individual players. major benefactors of all of our expense and time and effort that the MLS clubs put into that is U.S. Soccer and is the U.S. Men's National Team program. You're seeing our U20s, our U17s continually competing at the highest levels and making it out of their World Cup groups. Our national team, I think, is consistently showing that we can compete and get out of groups. But I do think at some point, and I think that we're nearing that now, we have to take the next step and say our expectation needs to be pushed on and pushed past just making it to the next round. We need to win another knockout match and be looking at things like the quarterfinals and semifinals of World Cups.
I think it was Jurgen who said, he caught a lot of heat for it. Maybe it cost him his job because Americans are wired a little bit differently, and we believe we can win everything. But when he was asked, will the United States ever win a World Cup, and he just very dryly said no. Look, there's a lot here, right? Because these other countries that have been playing soccer for a lot longer than we have are a lot further ahead than we are. I'll just ask you, are we ever going to win a World Cup in our lifetime? Are we going to win a World Cup?
I think so. I absolutely think so. And I guess I'm a person that believes in optimism. I think that is an American quality. But we've had this conversation before. What I would say is if we're getting an answer like that from a German coach, is he the right man for our job? And, I think going forward, you have to continually ask yourself, is a person that wasn't born and raised in our country, does that person have the passion and the belief and the real conviction to carry this country forward? Because, again, the qualities that I see we as American soccer players have isn't necessarily about the techniques, the technical ability, or the tactical ability. It should be about that competitive fighting spirit that we have that I think is second to none. And when you use that and when you bring a group together and really get the connections right, the sum can be greater than the parts. So for me, that's where we will have the best chance to compete.
What are your thoughts on Pochettino, the current coach of the U.S. men's national team? Jay? Hello?
Yeah, hello?
Yeah, just your thoughts on Pochettino, the current coach. What are your thoughts on the job he's done, and what are you anticipating as far as what we'll see this cycle?
Yeah, it's been really interesting because there's been some real highs with some of the games that they've won and the performances that they've had, and then there's been also some real lows with some of the games that we've lost and the manner in which we've lost them. And so it's a different one for me to gauge. I think a lot of what he's saying in the press I really like, from the perspective of guys have to earn their position and earn their membership within this team on a day by day and week by week basis. So I think those things are fantastic. But at the end of the day, coaches will always be judged on wins and losses. So from my perspective, it's all there in front of him, and I think that the team has every opportunity to really make a big push and a big stand in this World Cup, and that would be great. And he would at that point take a lot of credit. But if the group doesn't, then the reverse is also true.
We talked about the Sportico poll, where for the first time since they started tracking data, Americans say soccer is their third favorite sport. Football's 1, basketball 2, and soccer is now past baseball. Baseball's 4, hockey is 5. So the growth is pretty undeniable. We still have grumpy people who don't like the sport that every time I talk RSL, we get emails, and that's probably never going to change. And okay, that's fine. You can have your preference. But last time the World Cup was played here in 1994, it literally led to the implementation of this league, of MLS, of Major League Soccer. Again, putting the optimistic hat on, this will be the biggest. We had it was Dax McCarty who joined us last week. He was really good. He's in broadcasting now. He said this will be the biggest sporting event in the history of the world. And when you look at the metric, he's not wrong. What sort of conduit to growth, or whatever you want to say, is the hope for this World Cup being played in our region now?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, again, kind of our evolution of our game, it would be silly, I think, to say that we're looking to turn fans of other sporting events into soccer fans. For me, it's being a little bit more focused and hyper narrow on what I think there's two big objectives that could come out of this. I think the first one is that, having more of the absolute best players in the world experience what it is to be in our country, and what it is to be playing in games in front of full stadiums, and for them to recognize that there is actually a very big appreciation for our sport in our country, and that could lead them to be interested to come into our league at an earlier age. We're seeing some of that, over the past, 5 or 10 years, but I'd like to see a whole lot more of it. And then the second part is what we really need as a league is we need more TV viewership. We need more people to watch our league on TV, and I'm hopeful that all of the soccer, the highest level soccer in the world, being on TV this summer, could then translate into people saying, yeah, I want to watch a little bit more MLS as well.
Yeah, that's the key. And I don't know that this Apple TV deal was the right play, Jay. And maybe I'm biased because we were one of the markets where a local broadcast was actually viewed and valued and allowed us some storytelling that other places maybe didn't have. I don't know if you have any numbers. I mean, the data that I've read reeks of exaggeration. Any thoughts on the returns of this Apple TV project?
I think, Spence, to be honest, I think you're talking way over my head now.
All right. Yeah. Okay.
I'd like to consider myself somewhat knowledgeable on the soccer and the sporting side, but the business side is kind of where I get a little bit out of depth.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard lots of complaints about the Apple deal. I mean, I think there's also a fair amount of positives from it, especially the decision this year that was made to bring us out from behind that paywall. And now anybody that has the Apple TV app literally has access to all the MLS games they want to watch. So that's positive. And I think the other positive that people don't talk much about is just the worldwide audience that's able to watch our games now as compared to in the past.
Okay, fair enough. Back to soccer. Tell me about San Diego. They're a pretty quality side, but you guys play them well. For whatever reason, it seems to be a pretty good matchup for you. Tell me about them. What makes them dangerous?
Yeah, over the 3 games that we've played them, I would say exactly that, Spence. The game could go one way or the other. We're always right there. Last year, I think they ended up beating us at home, but came back. We were in a leading position in that game and really kind of fell apart towards the end, and then we went to their place and beat them. And then the first game this season went down there. We ended up drawing them, and I think that game also could have gone either way. So it makes for what I think is a very entertaining soccer game. You've got 2 teams that are essentially trying to do the same thing. Both teams want to control the possession. Both teams want to control the team out of possession by pressing high and creating goal-scoring chances. Both teams aren't just controlling the ball just to control it. They're looking to go forward, make vertical passes, break lines, and create goal-scoring chances. So a really interesting matchup. They've done just an amazing job. Obviously, it's only a second-year team with the year that they had in the first year. They did an amazing job of recruitment. They did an amazing job of finding the right coach for their group, and I think they've got a real good identity on what they want to be and how they want to play. So I'm looking forward to the game, no doubt.
The West is stacked, Jay. I mean, you guys are off to a great start. You're 4th at 4-1-1. Of all the teams that sit near the top of the table, the answer might be San Jose. I'm going to ask you the team that has surprised you the most.
Yeah, no doubt about it, because I would have, before the season and looking with the moves they've made or didn't make, actually, I would have thought they would really struggle. But they've been on fire and flying under our friend Bruce Arena there. So biggest surprise, no doubt. The rest of the group or the rest of the guys that are flying high are the ones that you would expect it, with San Diego continuing on from their great season last year, Vancouver doing the same, and then LAFC seems to be a juggernaut there.
Is Bruce Arena really your friend?
Yes, he is, actually.
Is he really?
Yeah, he is. He was he was actually the very first coach that I called shortly after I got hired by your father, asking him for some recommendations or some thoughts on what he thought I should try to focus on. So we established a pretty early connection, and that's continued from that day on.
I did not know that. I thought you were kind of being facetious, but that's good to know.
No, not at all. Not at all. Tremendous amount of respect for that man and what he's done.
All right, Jay, before I set you loose, a little love for the ladies. The Royals, 7 points in their past 3 matches, with a draw against Washington and a win against Boston and Chicago. What do you like most about what the Royals are doing right now?
All of it. I love the process that's been implemented there. I love the focus on the culture and the focus on the Royals way. Love the identity process that's gone on. I think it's so interesting to me how similar the two teams are. in their challenges and how they're rising to those challenges. Early in the season, the Royals have had really, really difficult time with injuries again at the beginning of the season, with players that have had international call-ups, with players that haven't gotten their work visas when we wanted to have them gotten. So, for them to be sitting where we are right now in the season, I think we couldn't and shouldn't be much happier. But at the same time, we also know how much improvement there is to be had. I don't think that we have gotten anywhere close to playing our absolute, what we would consider our strongest lineup together. And so to have the points that we have right now in our pockets, a very good thing.
Are you grumpy today?
No way.
Okay.
Happy.
All right. Good. Just want to check in on my guy, make sure we're doing okay. All right, pal. We'll set you loose. Good luck tomorrow. Go get all three. We'll chat soon.
All right. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Jason Christ, president of soccer, both the Royals and Real Salt Lake, playing quality soccer over the past few matches. Both are in action this weekend. Go to rsl.com for more information. Zach Top, I know, calm down. Zach Top is taking over the Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater. On July the 9th, tune into the OC show at noon for a chance to score a pair of tickets to see my guy, Zach Top. All right, we'll catch a break. Coming up next, it's been a really interesting 72-hour news cycle in the world of professional golf. Is Live Golf on the way out? What does the PGA Tour do with the players that turn their back on the tour and defected to Live? Update on the RBC Heritage, little Masters conversation. And whatever's going on in the world of local golf, Paul Pugmire stops by after a quick break on a Friday Drive on ESPN 700. It's been a wild 72-hour news cycle in the world of professional golf. The PGA Tour finds themselves at the RBC Heritage today. We'll give you an update in a minute. Of course, the Masters last week. A lot to talk to Paul Pugmire about on a Friday. Happy Friday, sir. How are you?
Terrific. How are you doing?
I'm well. Now, look, it's been interesting, Paul, because you and I have really started chatting on air about the time that the LIV Tour became a reality and LIV Golf was really becoming a disruptor in the landscape of professional golf. And, you know, it's been so interesting to follow this. And it's just kind of a lesson, man, where if you give it time, things seem to work out. And Scott O'Neill says otherwise, but all the reports are the public investment fund run by the Saudis is about to pull their financial backing, and LIV Golf might go away as soon as at the end of this season. Tell me your thoughts on this.
So many. First of all, isn't it fascinating that in the week following a historic Masters, we're talking about LIV and the PIF instead of Rory McIlroy becoming just the fourth player in history to go back-to-back at Augusta.
We've got 25 minutes, Paul. We'll get there, bud.
I know, but I'm just saying, you, me, players on the range at Harbor Town, the entire golf ecosphere, everybody's doing the same thing. And it's just fascinating. From the beginning, Spencer, we have talked about how nobody knows what the business model is for the Saudis, for the public investment funds, for the people putting all those $6 billion into LIV. We might be getting to the end of whatever that return on investment is, whatever that business model is. It might be wearing out its welcome. That's certainly what it looks like. But one thing is completely clear, that despite the clownish public statements from Scott O'Neill, LIV is only funded through the end of this season. And after that, nobody knows.
So, I mean, you can't write some of this stuff. Their golf stream went down during the middle of their tournament. You know, I was kind of cracking a joke earlier. The one positive for LIV Golf is that this story is actually now informed people of where they're playing. I guess they're in Mexico. I would not have known otherwise. But
that's a great take.
but you know what's interesting, Paul? So it was announced that the public investment fund, again backed by the Saudis, they just sold the majority stake of the soccer club they own. And it looks like they just might be getting out of the business of what I call sports washing, to utilize sports to try to improve their, the way people view them around the landscape of the globe. So it sounds like we're seeing the first dominoes fall of the Saudis getting out of the business altogether. And the LIV thing was supposed to be their crown jewel. You know what I mean? So it's kind of fascinating to see this kind of going down in real time.
Absolutely fascinating. And you're exactly correct. And what they are doing in other sports matters. I'm eager to hear the next domino to fall with what they've done, what they are doing in F1 as well. Because I think you are really hitting on a key point. It is likely that they are at least pulling back from, if not getting out of, the sports washing business. And I think your term sports washing there, Spencer, is spot on. I think that's what they're doing. And that's why nobody knows, why they don't talk about what is the business model, what is the return on investment. I think they're trying to take a scrub brush to their international reputation. The thing about LIV, and this is actually kind of sad to me, and I'm no fan of LIV, but the players who have gone there, with the one exception of Bryson DeChambeau, the players who have gone there have disappeared. John Rahm, a generational talent, has become invisible, and the game is not well served by that. It is not better for the game of golf that John Rahm has fallen into oblivion. And so, and the reason that DeChambeau has been able to keep a profile has nothing to do with LIV. It's because he's got really high-end social media skills, and he's hit on a couple of really great ideas that translate to social media. The breaking 50 thing, and then hitting the ball over his house trying to make a hole-in-one to his backyard putting green. Those aren't live, but they were a lot of fun, and so it kept DeChambeau relevant. But live is just off of the radar. And it's so interesting, not surprising, but funny that you said one of the effects of this is that now you know that they're in Mexico this week. Now, well, it's been on the schedule since the beginning. And, yeah, nobody knows. Nobody knows.
You know, another bummer here, Cam Smith couldn't break 80 at Bonneville right now. Like, what's happened to that dude?
Well, okay, that is a great question because Cam Smith is one of the ones I loved watching play. There's so much about his game that was just engaging, and he did not win a British Open at St. Andrews by accident. This guy's a quality player, but Liv never has demanded top-notch play from top-notch players, and it's left them unprepared, and it's left them dull. It has not kept them sharp, and boy howdy, it's showing in Cam Smith right now. Now, Cam is a talent. If he were to come back to the PGA Tour, and there's a reason to think that Cam might not, but if he were to come back to the PGA Tour, I think he gets his game back. But, boy, it's not there right now.
All right, so, you know, ultimately if we operate off the assumption, because the bottom line is, look, Scott O'Neill can say whatever he wants. If here's some business 101, kids. You don't have to go to business school. If the revenue with which your business is operated is taken from you, you no longer have a business. I don't know what pathway they have moving forward, especially with their outrageous purses and what they've already established that they're willing to pay these guys. There's no way they can keep going. Here's my question for you, Paul. What would you like to see? I mean, penny for a camera angle inside the PGA Tour offices right now where Brian Rolap and his staff just have to be laughing and celebrating in some way. What would you like to see the tour do to create a pathway back for some of these guys? And attendant to the question, not just the John Rahms and the Bryson DeChambeaus, but the Jason Kokrak's or the Graham McDowell's, like the guys that we're going to have to grind anyway to stay on tour. What would you like to see happen for both the top tier stars and then the other golfers, some of whom literally sued the PGA Tour so they could join Live Golf?
Yeah, boy, this is a great question. And I really appreciate that you've bifurcated the question because I do think there are two levels of answers to it. And first of all, the top players. Now, I think that and in both cases, the answer is that the model has already been established. So for the top players, the tour has already given the path back for the very top players that was only available for 2.5 weeks, and it only connected with that is there were only a handful of very top players who were qualified for it, and it was the players who had won a major in the last 5 years. And I think that the tour should come back and say, we're going to open the window on this again for a period of time and give you guys another chance to come in. And then the other model that has already been proven was what Patrick Reed is doing. Now, I would argue that Patrick Reed is a top-tier player, but regardless, what Patrick Reed is doing is he is taking advantage of and grinding through one of the paths that's already available out there. And there are two paths clearly available. One is the Korn Ferry Tour, and the other is the DP World Tour, the European Tour. Patrick chose the European Tour, and he's been wildly successful there. In the first 3 weeks, he had 2 wins and a second. He got enough points to come the end of the year. He will have enough points a number of points that have been enough each of the last 3 years. He will be in the top 10, and the top 10 out of the DP World Tour get PGA Tour status. So go play your way back onto the tour. Korn Ferry, DP World Tour, play your way back on. I think that if the PGA Tour made those two paths available, to me that's completely fair.
One more question here, then we'll move on. I mean, look, as I referenced earlier, there's just no denial that all of these golfers took a grip of cash from people who were creating a sports empire to distract from their fondness for murder and human rights abuses. That's not up for debate. That's who these people are. The CIA, they concluded the assessment that Jamal Khashoggi was killed at the direction of the Saudi prince. We know that, okay? So, you know, that to me is on the resume of Phil Mickelson, Bryson DeChambeau, John Rahm, Dustin Johnson, all of them, okay? So even if they come back to the tour, and actually I want to ask you one more question that's just popped in my head. Even if they come back to the tour and, you know, have another 10 to 15 years of a great career, what will this, when we look back on this chaos, the 5-year chaos the Live Golf caused and the turncoats that were a part of it, what will we say about them? How will this affect the way that we view them long-term in the ecosystem of pro golf?
Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, A-Rod, none of those are in the Hall of Fame. All of them had Hall of Fame talent and Hall of Fame careers. And the reason they're not in the Baseball Hall of Fame is because everybody knows they cheated. And I think that will chase them to the end of days. I think it will be in the first few paragraphs of their obituaries. And that is what these players who went to live will have to carry and live with the rest of their lives. Their reputations are what they are. Their history is what it is. I think they should be allowed a path to come back and play again, but there's no way that you're ever going to remove from public knowledge of their public activities what they did. It will chase them down forever. And I think it should. Everything you describe about the Saudi regime, everything you describe about Jamal Khashoggi and what the Crown Prince did or authorized and ordered, we all know this. And we know about the failings of the culture, of the society, and the way they treat women. None of it washes. And it's going to chase these people down the rest of their lives. And I'm okay with that.
The last thing here is I did want to ask about Phil individually, specifically, because without Phil Mickelson, I'm not sure that we see this thing work for Liv at all. And, you know, maybe they're able to poach some others, but he was the first turncoat. And he went from, I don't know, there were some people on the tour that never loved Phil, but I mean, he went from a guy that was generationally talented and lauded and celebrated to the villain, the number one villain. What does the rest of the golf experience look like for Phil Mickelson?
Oh, it will be complicated. There's no doubt. Phil is a very complicated man. Absolutely a seminal talent, an incredible record, but he led the way, he legitimized and gave star power to this whole idea in the beginning. And, you know, it didn't come out of bare ground. Phil had a gripe with the PGA Tour from years before Liv ever came on the scene. And Phil saw this as a way to carry on that gripe and to litigate that disagreement. But I think it comes at a real cost in the public eye. And it also comes at a real cost in the fact that we have not seen Phil Mickelson for a long time. Same thing as John Rahm. And Phil is a complicated guy. I think his legacy will be complicated. And it's not just this. There are tax and gambling issues. Phil's a very complicated guy. His legacy is not going to be a simple matter.
All right, moving on. There was a golf tournament played in Augusta, Georgia last weekend, Paul. So let's get into it. I was a little bit concerned that Rory was going to run and hide, only because I wanted some compelling theater on Sunday, but boy, did we get that. So I'll just ask your overall takeaways. 30,000-foot view, Masters last weekend. What stood out to you the most?
It's one of the greats. This was a Masters for the ages. It wasn't 1975 It wasn't 2019. It wasn't 1986. But this was one of the greats of all the Masters tournaments. And a couple of reasons for that. Right off the bat, number 1 and number 2 on the leaderboard were number 1 and number 2 in the world. And you add to that number 3 on the leaderboard, T3, Tyrell Hatton, number 3 in the world. So you have the top 3 players in the world who are finishing 1, 2, and then T3. That in and of itself is compelling. But when you look at McIlroy and Scheffler, who finished 1, 2, of course, fascinating breakdown there. They had mirror image experiences. McIlroy shoots 132 on the first 2 days, 144 on the weekend. Scotty Scheffler goes 144, 133. So absolutely mirror images. When you add it all up, Scheffler loses by 1, and who among us won't remember that putt on 17 on Sunday that Scheffler had just skirt by the edge of the hole and just kind of hang there, almost went in, and it went in because it was on it stayed out because it was on the Rays Creek side of the hole. And Rays Creek is a magnet at that property. And it pulled that ball just a 16th of an inch out of the hole. But you have the 2 best players in the world, and what separated them was a putt on the edge of the hole on 17 on Sunday. Does it get better than that? I don't think so.
So I had Jordan on Monday. I'm going to ask you the same question I asked him, because it's always interesting for me to hear from guys like you that know the game in a way that I still am trying to learn. When did you feel like, all right, he won it? When did you feel like Rory had won that golf tournament?
12. Now, there's a lot of golf yet to be played, but the reality is the 12th, the tee shot on number 12 at Augusta on Sunday is the hardest, the most impactful, the most consequential shot in golf. It has destroyed more runs at a Masters than any other shot, any other hole. It has decided the victor in the Masters more than any other shot, any other hole. And because the Masters is played at the same course every year, it means that hole, that tee shot, has decided more major champions than any other hole, any other shot. And it is so hard, and it is set up to capture and to kill the slightest little teeny tiny error from a right-handed player. It actually is set up to accept an error from a left-handed player, which is why left-handed players disproportionately do well at the Masters as opposed to other majors. But Rory McIlroy's tee shot on 12 on Sunday was exquisite. And when he hit that shot, I thought, he did it. He got that shot onto the putting surface. He can go on and win now.
See, that's funny, because for me, it wasn't until he hit the sand shot on 18. I just before, 2-putt, you're going to win it. Did you have? I will admit that I was kind of pulling for Justin Rose. I like to cheer for our guys, but I'm 2 years older than Justin Rose, so I don't appreciate hearing commentators talking about him like he's about to go into his grave. And I think it was 12. Was 12 when he flubbed the chip? Was that the chip? It was 12. Okay.
Yeah. He played and stubbed it from back left of the green. Yeah, it's not good.
And he was so good up until then. It felt like he just couldn't bounce back from that. I mean, he still carded a 70 and was 10 under for the tournament. But 2-part question: your thoughts on the way Justin Rose played throughout the course of 4 rounds, and how many more shots is he going to have to get that green jacket?
Oh, how many more is he going to have? I don't know. He was absolutely my sentimental favorite. Look, he finished T3, and add that, he has 3 other second-place finishes, 2 of them in playoffs. He has come so close so much, and he is such a class act, and he's such a great player. I really want him to win a Masters. Had he pulled this off and kept Rory from repeating, I would have felt totally fine about it. Boy, can he do it again? Can he get himself into position again? I wouldn't bet against him, but it's climb. It's really, really hard. It would be so cool to see him do it. But, looking at Justin Rose on the leaderboard, I want to talk for a quick minute about the leaderboard. If you go from Rory McIlroy and Scotty Scheffler at the top and scan on down all through the T7s, every single one of those players was a Ryder Cup player, last Ryder Cup.
Yeah.
And there are 1, 2, 3, 4 major champions. Is that by accident? I think not. Augusta National takes the very best from the very best, and the cream rises every single time.
Feels like there's a major champion. There feels like there's a major championship in the future for Cameron Young, doesn't there?
Yeah, sure does. Boy, he's got a lot of game. And look, he didn't finish at Augusta, but it takes a while to learn how to do that. Even among tournaments and courses that are special and that stand apart, Augusta National is a little more special and stands a little farther apart. It is in a group of one, Augusta National is. But it remains that Cameron Young has shown the ability to deliver an extremely difficult shot at pucker time when he hit the tee shot on 18 on Sunday at Sawgrass in the Players. That drive on 18 in the Players is so immensely difficult. Everything about its look, everything about the landing zone, everything about that shot, the penalties that come if you don't execute it, it is so hard. And we have seen Cameron Young step up and hit just an absolutely magnificent shot at that time in, like I say, pucker time, when things are really, really hard. And so since he has demonstrated that once, I completely believe that he can demonstrate it again. He's shown clearly that he's got tons of game. I think he's going to win a major, absolutely.
All right, excuse me. Let's see. We don't need to harp on the live guys anymore because Terrell Hatton played pretty well and Brooks Koepka played pretty well, and Patrick Reed played pretty well. But I will ask you about Bryson because I'm smiling ear to ear after he steps up to the media availability and brags about his 3D 5-iron and then doesn't even make the cut. Were you surprised to see Bryson struggle the way that he did?
No, not at all. And the reason for that is mechanical. And look, I need to disclaim this a little bit and put a preface on it. Bryson DeChambeau is smarter than me, and he is a better player than me, both of them by miles. Nonetheless, Augusta National absolutely requires an artful short game. It's got to be more than technically proficient. It has to be artsy. And all of the data and all of the anecdotal analysis tells us that the greatest short game players get their hands close to the ball. They crowd the ball. And I'm talking Lee Trevino, Seve Ballesteros, Tiger Woods, these great short game players. They all get close to the ball when they're hitting demanding chip shots. Bryson DeChambeau is playing a wedge with a 6-iron shaft in it, and he plays it out on the end of the shaft with stiff arms. There's no artistry in there, and Augusta National will not accept that. And so, no, it doesn't surprise me at all that Bryson can't crack the code at Augusta.
I'm smarter than Bryson. I'm a better player than Bryson.
Are you doing that? Are you crowding in on your short shots?
Paul, I've built a life on delusional confidence, so please do not tell me to stop now, my friend.
No, I'm telling you, I'm all there with you, my man.
All right.
Think that's great.
All right, let's before I set you loose and find out what's on the show tomorrow. First of all, I don't know much about this track where the RBC is being played, but man, is it good television. It looks like a beautiful course. So tell me about this course, Hilton Head, South Carolina.
Harbor Town. It is. You are so right. It is absolutely one of the great golf courses in the world. Stunningly beautiful. It demands a straight ball. You don't have to hit it a ton. You do have to hit it straight. You got to keep it on grass. You got to keep it in front of you. Got to keep it in play at Harbor Town. It is one of the great courses ever. It was designed by Pete Dye, same guy who designed the TPC Sawgrass where the Players is played, and you see a lot of some similar characteristics. You see water and bunkers fronting contiguous with one another. You see the use of railroad ties to shore up both water and bunkers, and you see very green complexes and green shapes that require you to be on the proper portion of the green. Hitting the green might not be good enough. That is Harbortown at Hilton Head. Great golf course, and you're absolutely right. Shows up well on TV. It is an awful lot of fun to watch them play this course, and there's also a fun little historical tweak here. There's only been one time that the Masters winner has gone on to Harbortown the next week and won. Bernhard Langer did it one year. That's it.
All right. At the top of the leaderboard is Matt Fitzpatrick, Victor Hovland, Harris English, 14 under, 13 under, 10 under. As I ask you every weekend, how far back are you willing to go as far as the players you think are still in the mix to win the tournament?
We're going to grab all of the T4s that take us down to -9. That includes, again, listen to these names, a bunch of Ryder Cuppers. We've got Ludwig Oberg, Sepp Straka, Patrick Cantlay, Harris English, Victor Hovland, Matt Fitzpatrick. They're all Ryder Cuppers. They're all totally quality players. I think the weekend's going to be a shootout at Harbortown this year.
I hate to bring it up, but Tony, well, he's not in last place. Justin Thomas is in last. So obviously, Tony now the only really good player who's not playing well. But we didn't see him at the Masters, and now he's back in the field, and he's nearly the worst player in the field. What's going on with our guy, Paul?
It's becoming puzzling. We're getting deep enough into the year. We're halfway through April. At this point, has his foot fully healed? I don't really know. I'm looking forward to the next chance I have to talk with Tony and talk with him about that. Maybe he just hasn't got his game back from the foot injury, but something's not right, and it's showing up in his score.
What's coming up on the show tomorrow?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned just Jordan Bloxham. We will be up at T-Box Centerville. Jordan will be on the show. We're going to be talking about some things that Jordan is and the T-Box boys are doing. And then we also will continue our discussions with the members of the inaugural class of the Utah PGA Hall of Fame.
Thanks. Excuse me. Thank you for the time, my friend. Have an excellent weekend, and we will chat soon.
Love it. Thank you, Spencer.
All right. Paul Pugmire. Man, what a fascinating 72-hour news cycle in the world of pro golf. And the world of pro golf right now is in South Carolina at the RBC Heritage, where Matt Fitzpatrick is your leader at 14 under par. Then it's Victor Hovland at 13 under, Harris English at 10, Patrick Cantlay, Sepp Straka, Ludwig Oberg at 9 under par. That's the ESPN 700 Festival of Tees. Powered by the Utah Golf Association, we're giving away rounds of golf from the best courses in the state. Listen to the OC show from 11 to 2. Listen to me from 2 to 6 for your chance to win each day from ESPN 700. Details can be found on ESPN700sports.com. We are sending you to Valley View today. Porter, just a real quick follow-up. I'm not allowed to just take the Valley View credit, correct?
Sorry.
All right. One of my favorite courses in the entire state. So text in right now, 877-353-0700. Text in which live golfer you do not want to see back on tour. And if you text in Bryson, we'll send you to play golf. 877-353-0700. Valley View today. All right, we'll catch a break. Coming up next, excited for this. The Stanley Cup playoffs is making its way to Salt Lake. Our buddy Adrian Denny will join us live in studio. Then we'll get to the 5 o'clock hour of the program, and we will say goodnight at 6 on ESPN 700. All right, the Stanley Cup playoffs are making their way to Salt Lake City, Utah, a sentence I never thought I would say out loud. And we are about to be educated and entertained and illuminated by our friend Adrian Denny, who's kind enough to join us live in studio. What's up, man? How are you?
Happy Friday, Spence. Thanks for having me in, man.
It's great to see you. I appreciate the time. I know you're probably preparing for a massive series. Third Eye Blind, right out of the gates. Are you a Gen Xer like I am? Are you a proud Gen Xer?
I am a millennial.
Oh,
I know. Do you know what, Spence? It's a funny story. I used to have a very close friend. I still do, but I would just give it to him all day. I'm like, every time he'd do something, I'd say, "You stupid millennial."
Yeah.
You know how it is.
Yeah.
And he'd say to me, "Bro, you are the first millennial that there is. This is all your fault."
So you started the trend. So you're an older millennial.
Yeah,
then.
I am 1982, so I think I'm right there.
Right on the cutoff.
Every time I gave it to him for every millennial tendency that he had, he'd be like, "You are the first millennial there is. This is all your fault. You started this."
Started the trend. Yeah. Well, look, great to see you. So much to get to. First of all, when you hear somebody say the sentence, "The battle for Lord Stanley's Cup will make a stop in Salt Lake City," like, how do you even process that?
There's just so many things that I don't think will ever sink in. Like this second year of the NHL thing for me, like, I don't know that it's sunk in yet. It's just such a dream. Like, every day is just like you live it, but how do I fully soak this in, that this is what it is, right? It's the dream. It's the life. We've got it here in Salt Lake at the Dulles Center, the building we grew up going to, watching Golden Eagles, Jazz, Grizzlies for a couple years. So it's in the building. And then, we clinch the playoffs, and it hits you again. Like, second intermission of that Nashville game, like, we all knew we were going to the playoffs. Like, January solidified it, the 6-0-1 homestand, unbeaten in 9 straight. So and you see how the team's playing, you look around the league, you're like, okay, we're fine here. And then second intermission of that Nashville game just kind of hit me. Like, it's just like,
it's happening, yeah.
It's emotional. Like, and being on the air when Anaheim beat San Jose and we officially clinched, like, it's like, this is happening.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That's how it's been. I don't know that anything sinks in. It's still just a dream.
My guess would be that it's already sold out. And the secondary market, unfortunately, with the ecosystem of the way ticketing works in our country, is probably not an awesome option because of all the fees. But what would you say to people as far as, like, if you can be in the building for the Mammoth's first home playoff game, it's going to be an experience that I'm not sure a lot of people around here are fully aware of, just because they've never experienced playoff hockey before. Describe what you think the electricity in that building's, the energy in the building's going to feel like when we get this thing back in Salt Lake.
I'm not sure that we could have, had any kind of idea what it was going to be like on Tuesday, October 8th for the first ever game against the Chicago Blackhawks.
Yeah.
And that, even the preseason games, but that set the tone. Like, it's a rock show. And Utah there's been no learning curve for this.
Mm-hmm.
Utah has gone all in the Utah Hockey Club last year, the Mammoth now, and just every part of the ride. And they get it. Like, Salt Lake's not what it was when we were growing up and everybody was from here.
Yeah.
Right? We've grown as a community, and it really hit me, driving down I-15 in the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years and seeing the apartments, the housing, the big tech, all the headquarters at Lehigh and driving down I-15 on a Sunday night at 8 p.m. when there used to be nobody in sight, and it feels like rush hour.
Yeah.
Right? So we've had a lot of folks come here for, family, for professional reasons, because they want to live here where, where we can ski in a half hour from here, the outdoors. So we've got a lot of folks who come from, a hockey background that have jumped right in. We've got folks that are sports fans that grew up here, and that's all we do is consume sports. And when you gave us the MLS and Real Salt Lake, we're soccer fans now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And now here we are. Okay, sports, hockey. So it's something that hasn't been any kind of transition at all. You read articles, and I read one a couple days ago in The Athletic about Seattle and how they're still they still feel like a young hockey market.
Mm-hmm.
And you go to the games, and it still feels like they're learning the game. Was part of the article, but I don't feel that at our games. Like our fans get it. Like they don't have to be cute. And when Veggie makes a save, they realize the key moment that, okay, now we have a chance to come back and score on a 2-on-1 because of that save. So it's going to be to another level because they know what Stanley Cup playoffs are, and they've seen it.
Yeah.
Right. It's you've always heard in Salt Lake, we have a Game 7, Caps, Pens. Everybody knows.
Yeah.
People are watching it.
Yeah.
And you see how crazy it is. So I'm excited for this to go to just a whole other level starting Friday night, week from tonight, when it comes here for Game 3.
Were you skeptical at all? See, it's interesting hearing you unpack this because our the home opener for RSL is at Rice-Eccles Stadium, and 30,000 people showed up. And we were a little bit blown away that many people showed up. But then, and the team wasn't great. We had a tough time getting results first couple of years, until Jay took the coaching job. Then obviously we won the cup in 2009. But attendance was hard to sustain early on until the team started to get a little bit better. And now, that building is packed. And certainly they're good this year. But I was at the opener for the Mammoth, and I'm like, this is great. All these people showed up. Let's see. And it didn't dip. Like, I don't have attendance numbers in front of me, but it feels like that building is more or less full. And to your point, fans that either knew hockey or learned hockey pretty quickly, because it does feel like a market that has grasped what they're seeing, not just showing up. Are you surprised that it really has been this heavily supported, quite frankly, right from jump?
I'm not, because I think Utah was ready for it. Utah was ready for that next major pro team to come in.
Mm-hmm.
And Ryan Smith says it all the time. Utah shows up, and we do. Like, we love sports and love our teams. And Spence, the Jazz have had, during this rebuild, some tough times, some tough games, some tough results, and Delta Center's packed.
Yeah, there are good NBA teams that can't get fans in the building. Yeah,
there's a sellout streak.
Yeah,
like it's got to be more than a decade of a sellout streak in the Delta Center, and this community is amazing, and the support that they show, and we're divided by Utah and BYU. But for the Jazz, for the Mammoth now, for Real Salt Lake, you go to the games and people are there and people are into it. And the other thing, Spence, I think we're so big at this point. We've got a population to support 2 major pro teams, 3 major pro teams, that it's not a concern. And so you've got that identity, you've got that fabric of just being a diehard sports community, and you add this team, and you've been to hockey games. I've never met a person that went to their first hockey game and didn't leave it at any level.
Mm-hmm.
ECHL, AHL, NHL come out of it and say, "Oh my gosh, that was so much fun. I can't wait to go back to the next one." So we got that going for us too.
And it's a spectator sport. You need to be there live. I've always said this about hockey. And, it's a fine television product. But it's kind of funny to consider this. I was just interviewing Jason Christ, and we were talking about some issues that MLS has right now because the Apple television deal, I think, has been atrocious. TV is such an important part of the American ecosystem, and I'm convinced it's one of the main reasons football is the number one sport in our country. Football is the best TV show in sports. It just is. Basketball can be a great TV sport if the employees show up for work, which is a big issue that the sport has. And to me, hockey has always been a fine television product, but it is hard to see the puck. They tried to do this dopey thing for a while where they were like putting like a big shiny streak behind the puck. Hockey cannot be fully appreciated unless you are there live. I've always said that. If you've never had a chance to experience a hockey game live, if you really want to understand what this sport is, you got to be there live, and it helps if you're close, because that's when you really appreciate how athletic these dudes are.
Yeah, it's a great experience in person. And Spence, I've always felt like people kind of psych themselves out about hockey and the rules and what's offside and what's icing.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean? And I've always just said, just watch the puck. Puck goes in the net.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing here.
Yep.
You hear a whistle, you don't know what it is, we'll tell you.
Yeah.
Give us a second.
Yeah.
We'll bring you up to speed there. We can walk you through this, but just watch the puck. But for me, I went to my first Golden Eagles game when I was 9, and
was that Salt Palace style?
Yeah,
nice.
Totally.
Nice.
People were smoking cigarettes. And it was just the best Friday night ever as a kid.
Yeah.
And from that point on, just as a sports fan, I was hooked. So I've always watched hockey. I've never thought anything about it, but you do hear that, and I get it. But I think the more you watch it, the more you consume it. ESPN Plus having the NHL is such an advantage because everybody has ESPN Plus, Disney Plus. You can watch basically 90% of the NHL games that aren't exclusive to TNT or NHL Network by having ESPN Plus, which just saves you a step. Like, people are going to get NHL Center Ice, but when you got ESPN Plus and you got the games and you can just throw it on, it makes it it saves you a step, and it also adds it to the people that aren't going to go drop a couple $100 to watch hockey every night when they can, catch it on the national games or locally.
How much? Because I was curious to see how many Avs fans would show up to watch the Mammoth, or Blues fans or whatever. Utah basketball is really trying to get back to where it was once upon a time, and the best crowd this year by far was the BYU game, but about 30 to 40% of the arena was blue. How many opposing sweaters do you see? Or is it mostly like, no, this is a home crowd, legit home crowd?
You do see, every game you see a range of opposing fans, which I think is unique to hockey. Hockey fans travel. And we're a new market and a new place to go, and everybody knows that Salt Lake is a great place to visit and an easy place to get to. So you have that. You've also got people here that we've seen it in the Sun Belt markets, right? The people from Detroit, from Minnesota that are living in those areas that are still with those teams, and we see it here because I think there's I don't know. I don't like to label people, Spence, but there's a lot of transplants here now.
Sure.
Which is great because it's opened up doors in everything for the state. So you see it. I don't think it's anything that you don't see at any other NHL arena. And I can't wait to see T-Mobile Arena for Game 1 on Sunday night and Game 2 on Tuesday, because I know that Utah is going to have that covered. They did when the Mammoth were there on March 19th, won 4-0. It was kind of when Vegas hit that, they were in a bad patch from the Olympics until they brought in John Tortorella a couple weeks ago. But so a lot of fans left early. The Mammoth jumped up 3-0 in the first period. You could hear some Utah chants, and it kind of felt like it. So I'm excited to see that. And at the other end, we know that when we play Vegas on Friday night and Monday night for games 3 and 4, their fans are going to come here. And the message was just in a staff meeting at the Utah Mammoth Ice Center, led by our president of hockey operations, Chris Armstrong. And he said the same thing. He said, just be louder. Mm-hmm. Just be louder than them when they come in. Welcome everybody. Be louder.
Yeah,
it's our building. It's our house.
But we'll get to the matchup during our next segment. But I will ask you about this dynamic before we catch a break. You could see the growth last year. You could see it start to crystallize. You could see some of the young players start to take steps, and you could see that they were going to knock on the door, ultimately fell short. Main difference between last year, this year, additions, growth, experience, what allowed them to take this step, Adrian?
Growth to close out games. Mm-hmm. I think they led in the same amount of games last year. It's just closing out the game when you're up 4-1 and they make it 4-2 and they make it 4-3, and being able to reset on the fly. Okay, this is our game. We're ahead. We're at home. Mm-hmm. We can go win this. And last year, the team in the games that they led and didn't win, they just couldn't get to the finish line.
Yeah.
And this year, first half of the year, I think we saw it a little more. We saw some carryover, and the second half, I think the real statement from this group was the ability to close out a game, realizing that in every hockey game, no matter what, you jump up 2-0 in the first 2 minutes, there's going to be pushback at some point.
Sure.
And so it's the ability to come back with that next big shift. Andre Cherney's been great. I think he's called a couple timeouts this year in pretty strategic moments. You get one a game in hockey, and just been able to calm the guys down. Plus, the veteran presence, some additional guys they've added this year. Nate Schmidt has been huge to have Sean Dursey healthy for an entire season. Ian Cole's always there. Mikhail Sergachev. It's a calming influence when they're on the bench, and I think that sunk in a little more for our younger guys this year too.
Fully healthy, or is McBain hurt?
Yep.
Okay.
McBain still week to week.
Okay.
No update there.
Okay.
Hayton still week to week. The good thing is the Mammoth like how their forward lines are constructed right now. When McBain got hurt, he was playing with J.J. Paterka and Michael Carcone. They popped up Alexander Kerfoot to that third line, and then brought Brandon Tanev and Liam O'Brien into the lineup with Kevin Stenlin on the fourth line. So the Mammoth like how their forward lines are constructed right now. Of course, you got Keller, Schmaltz, Krause on the first line. Yamamoto, who's been just a perfect injection with Cooley, and Gunther is just kind of a utility guy. Same thing with Kerfoot. So they like the forward lines. So if you get a McBain back, you get a Hayton back, looks like you just pop them in on the fourth line. Your top three, I really feel, are set right now for the Mammoth.
Adrian Denny is live in studio of the Mammoth broadcast team. Also hosts the best Mammoth podcast called Mammoth Daily. Get him at 801 Adrian Denny on Twitter. We'll catch a break, and coming up next, we're going to preview the Utah-Vegas series. Vegas likes Vegas; they're favored to win, and then we'll get to some of the other series because we have some NHL hockey on our radio station this weekend. Coming up tonight, we have 2 NBA play-in games. It's Orlando and Charlotte. Then it's Phoenix, Golden State. Tomorrow you can hear Utah Golf Radio, and then it's Minnesota, Dallas, and Houston against L.A. For the 2 Stanley Cup playoff games. Then on Sunday, we'll have Boston, Philly out of the NBA, then Montreal, Tampa Bay out of pro hockey. I want to let you know that IFA's Step 1 crabgrass preventer and lawn food gives your turf a strong start for months of thick emerald grass that will leave your neighbors green with envy. It provides a fast green up, helps your grass build up the energy it needs, and it defends against weeds. More with Adrian Denny coming up next on ESPN 700. Adrian Denny from the Utah Mammoth radio crew and host of the Mammoth Daily Podcast is live in studio on a Friday afternoon. All right, Adrian, let's get into it. I was hoping it was Anaheim. It's not. It's Vegas. They are favored to win because they're the home ice team. Let's hone in on the Golden Knights specifically. Then we'll get to some matchup specific stuff. What stands out most to you about them? What makes them dangerous? What do they do well?
Do you know what, Spencer? Their underlying numbers, 5-on-5 offense, 5-on-5 defense, have been top 10 in the NHL all season. Same with their power play and their penalty kill. And they fired their coach with 8 games left in the season and brought in John Tortorella, and they went 7-0-1, and from that point on had some of the best goaltending numbers in the National Hockey League. So if you're Bruce Cassidy, you just got fired, you're looking at how Vegas has made strides from a goaltending standpoint, and you're like, yeah, they played the exact same way they played under me, except the goaltender made a couple more saves. So Vegas is Vegas, what they've always been. And, Carter Hart, their goaltender, who they signed on December 1st after he was, reinstated by the NHL for a legal situation that him and several other players were involved in and when they were 18 playing for Team Canada. But the interesting thing is Carter Hart got hurt. They've played 4 goalies this year. They all pretty much have the same numbers. Excuse me. So they bring in John Tortorella with 8 games left, and believe me, when Utah beat them 4-0 on March 19th, something was wrong. Like, it was bad. Like, something was off. Something's missing, right? Like, and they bring in Tortorella, and Carter Hart's kind of getting healthy, ready to go. They ride him. He puts up good numbers the rest of the way. They go 7-0-1. They had a soft schedule, but they win the Pacific Division. But interestingly enough, John Tortorella and Carter Hart were together in Philadelphia, where Hart was playing and Tortorella was coaching before Hart got suspended for that legal matter to be taken care of, and had the best year of his career in 22-23 before that happened. So, and you look at John Tortorella, he's kind of been a goalie whisperer. Like, he's had guys win the Vezina, the best goalie in the NHL, Sergei Bobrovsky for Columbus, to name one. Best year of his career was with the Blue Jackets. So it's kind of an interesting case study that, they had good underlying numbers. They have the most overtime losses in the league. They're in every game. They just were just kind of mid, right? In that mushy Pacific Division. And then they get going. They win the division. Carter Hart's playing pretty good, but their numbers have looked good all year. Their goaltending numbers haven't. Their goaltending numbers look good now. John Tortorella, though, is a playoff coach. Won the Stanley Cup with Tampa Bay in 2004, but kind of the rub on him has been he gets out X's and O's in the playoffs.
Okay.
So we'll see. But that was kind of a mess of an answer, but that's kind of the Vegas season.
Yeah, just up and down, right? Yeah. Getting Tortorella, though, because he's a legend. I mean, he coached my Rangers for a while. He's coached on the national team level. I mean, if you're going to move on from your coach that late in the season, it's pretty nice to have a guy like that to tap into. Yeah,
and he's all, attitude, motivation, right? His guys love him. Right, we've seen his press conferences. He can be a little prickly, but his players love him. And you get coaches, and John Tortorella is one, but Bruce Cassidy, Peter DeBoer, who was in Dallas, they come in, they have a good impact, and then they just kind of wear a little thin on their guys. And for Vegas, everybody says, leave it to Vegas, fire coach with 8 games left in the year, but clearly they could sense that something was a little off. Yeah, it worked for him with that team, and obviously worked. Win the division. Yeah, home ice in first 2 rounds. So, were you hoping for Anaheim? I mean, the numbers indicate Anaheim's the most beatable team, right? sure was.
Yeah.
For me, Vegas and Edmonton just have that championship pedigree.
Yep.
And it's up and down as they go in the regular season. You get them into the playoffs, and it's different. Anaheim's a team a lot like Utah with a lot of young talent, but some good veterans that they pieced in there. But we see through the course of 82 games, while they did lead the division, probably for the longest of anybody this year, 82 games showed itself that they weren't the Pacific Division champions. So the Mammoth not going to see them. 4 wins in their last 12 games for Anaheim, but totally that's what I was hoping for. And then the Stanley Cup playoffs, you shouldn't wish for anything because any team can get hot, get on a run. But I think everybody in complete agreement that sure, if we could pick anybody there, pick Anaheim.
Any concern, because you and I last spoke on this show after they had beaten Edmonton and then the Preds 4-1, and the Mammoth finished the season losing 3 of 4, and they got stomped by the Hurricanes, and then at Calgary came home and beat Winnipeg, and then the Blues got them. So any concern that the end of the season for Vegas is them winning basically 7 of 8 and Utah losing 3 of 4?
If that would have been a trend over 9 games, or say the Mammoth lose 7 of 9, I think so. They went into a game in LA on March 28th with a goal that, okay, for us to be in the position we want to be at the end of the year, which is in a playoff spot, we need 9 points. Okay, 9 points in the final 9 games, which is, that's 500 hockey. But that was the reality. They went out and won 5 games in a row. Got 10 points.
Yep.
So there they are.
Yep.
I think with the Mammoth, we saw it in March, and we saw it the last 4 games, of which last night, it's game 82. It's the last day of school. I'll get to that in a second. But for Utah this year, when the pressure wasn't on them, that's kind of in March when they slipped a little bit. They led in 14 of 15 games and won 7 of them. That Carolina game, they played okay in. It was a letdown game. They had just clinched the playoffs. They played okay. It was Carolina, who's a team that was playing a lot of AHL guys and resting guys, but they still got the system. They still got the way they play. Then they went up to Calgary, and that was not a good game. That was my word for that game was annoying because it just sucked. The Mammoth didn't play a good game, and for me in the NHL, when you play a game like that, nobody needs to say anything. Everybody knows. Players know. You don't have to tell them. They knew. They came back. Winnipeg on Tuesday night jumped up. Winnipeg pushed back. They pushed over the top. Clinched the first wild card. Going into the game last night, the Mammoth as a group, leadership told Andre Cherney, we don't want to rest. We want to keep going. We are fine. So and they didn't have the first wild card clinched until Tuesday, but going into Thursday, everybody wanted to play, and they didn't play. Gunther undisclosed, Sean Dursey upper body injury. Just want to get guys 100% going into Sunday, right? So that's one case, 2 case scenarios that you don't play guys. Krelvamelka started. He wanted to start. We wanted him to start. Vitek Vanacek played the 3rd period when St. Louis broke the tie. So that's the situation. The message from Bill Armstrong earlier this week was, it's a letdown weekend. We just clinched the playoffs. First time ever. Letdown.
Yeah.
I get it. Message from Bear and Ryan Smith after the game last night was, we're going to the playoffs. We accomplished our goal. Let's go.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
We are moving full speed ahead. So bringing this around, the Mammoth this year in games where they don't have pressure haven't been their best. But when they go into LA with, some pretty detailed directives, okay, we saw what they did. They beat the Kings, who were a point out of a playoff spot at that time, 6-2. So do you like it that you lost to Calgary 4-1 Sunday night, that you didn't come out great against Carolina, that 3-3 against St. Louis last night didn't result in wins? No, but is the case study of the group, when crunch time comes, are they ready to go? Yeah, you like that.
So knowing these two teams the way that you do, where as far as an advantage for the Mammoth, something they can exploit from Vegas in order, then this would be an upset. I mean, they are an underdog against Vegas. What do you like about a certain dynamic between these two teams that goes the Mammoth's way?
So you got regular season, you got playoffs, and Bear has been very, cautionary to us. Don't look at the regular season here. But the regular season is you beat them 5-1, you beat them 4-0 in the last 2 games. And he said that could have been a game where we played our best game, they played their worst game. That happens in an 82-game season. The Mammoth the last 2 years against Vegas have led in 5 of the 6 games. And they've also had 2-0 leads in 5 of the 6 games. So for me, going into this series, it's okay, we were much better holding leads. That's why we made the playoffs this year and we didn't last year. But for Utah, every single thing has to be dialed down. You can't get out playoffed by Vegas because in crunch time, they know how to make plays. They make plays. It's how you advance. And so for Utah, when you get a lead, you got to hold it. When you get a power play, probably 2-3 a game in the playoffs. It's not going to be 4 or 5, 6.
Yeah, those are golden chances, dude.
You got to take advantage. Yeah. You can't leave anything on the table. When you go shorthanded with 10 minutes left in the third period, you have to kill it. When you have a wide open net, you got to bury it, right? You just have to take advantage of every opportunity that you have. Because they will. Yeah. Because that's what wins in the playoffs, and that's why they've been successful in the playoffs. So for me, that's it. We've seen young teams, go into the playoffs, and they play good.
Yeah.
And they lose 2-1. And they're in the game. And they maybe have a 1-0 lead for 45 minutes. But they can't close it out because they missed a wide open net that would have made it 3-1. They had a 2-minute power play that they didn't score on, took a penalty, and then they scored. So key momentum situations for me is what it's all about because they're going to be in the games. They're going to have a chance to win. That's the Stanley Cup playoffs. So going out and doing it, that's it.
So in pro basketball, we have a saying, stars are made in the playoffs on the road. That's how you know you're a star player. Young players usually play better at home. Most players are more comfortable at home. If you're a superstar in pro basketball, you show us that you're that in the playoffs on the road. What does that mean for the Mammoth? Who has to be big time coming up on Sunday and in the first couple of games on the road for them to be able to grab one and steal home ice advantage? What does that sound like?
Nick Schmaltz has been the guy all year that's come up with the big goals for the Mammoth, 22-1 when he scores.
Interesting.
So Nick Schmaltz has been their big game player. Dylan Gunther, since he came into the NHL, his first full season last year, 70% of his goals tie the game or give Utah the lead. So he gets big goals. Logan Cooley scoring 16 of his 24 goals this year in the first period. Right? So those are some things to watch for, which if that happens, okay, our young guys are making that transition into the playoffs. And you hear about pressure and it's all internal and it's hard to compartmentalize, but we'll see how the guys go into it. But you look at guys like Gunther, Cooley, Schmaltz, Keller, you're thinking, okay, those are gamers. Those are playoff guys, just with the way that they're internally built. So we'll see. It's a first run with this group together going into the playoffs. Here's one for you, Spence. I thought this was just fascinating. So of all the teams in the Stanley Cup playoffs, there's 16 of them. The Mammoth have the 5th fewest games for a team in the playoffs, but they have the 5th most games by defensemen.
Huh.
So forwards are young, first time. You got guys like Mikhail Sergachev and Ian Cole who have won 2 Stanley Cups. Nate Schmidt won a Stanley Cup last year with Florida Panthers. Big acquisition. Sean Dursey and John Marino have both advanced in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So your D are there. Forwards don't have the experience, but they've got the skill. You got to say you're more skilled than Vegas. You have the better goalie. Karel Vejmelka can take the series. He can go out there and be the reason the Mammoth have success in the playoffs. Second in the NHL in wins this year, 38. He's been a gamer for Utah.
Will you be so bold before I let you get out of here as to make a pick in the series? Who wins in how many games?
I haven't even thought about it.
Okay.
I think Utah can take at least a game in Vegas.
Okay.
I think they can come back 1-1.
Okay.
Can we take it from there and pick it up next week at this time?
Absolutely.
After watching?
We'll take the split. We'll take the split.
I think Utah, I feel pretty good that game 1 or game 2, the Mammoth can take it.
Yeah.
Then you come back here to the Delta Center. It's a madhouse.
Yeah.
I think you're in great shape.
Well, look, buddy, it's great to see you. As I say all the time, one of the wildest things they've asked me to do at KUTV is be the analyst on a hockey show. So I just listen to Mammoth Daily, and then I regurgitate what you say. Tell our listeners where they can go find your work.
Yeah, you can find us on Mammoth Daily, wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Utah Mammoth YouTube page, Mammoth Plus, SCG Plus. New episodes drop Monday through Friday at 4:45 a.m. So we've got at least 30 minutes for you. Just talking Mammoth. We're bringing in members of our broadcast team, talking to our players one-on-one. It's a heavily engaged show by fans who want Utah involved in it. So it's been a fun year for us on Mammoth Daily. So invite the folks to check us out there. And we've got Hockey Night in Utah on the radio. SEG Media, you can check it out on the NHL app. And Mike Fulton and I will have it for you on the air an hour before face-off.
Love it, man. Well, can't wait. Here we go. This is going to be a wild ride. Great to see you. Thanks for your time, okay?
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, my buddy Adrian Denny. I want to let you know you can swing into Golf for the new Titleist Vokey SM11 wedges. The new Vokey SM11 wedges are tour-inspired and have optimized flight, improved spin performance, and tour-level grinds. It's our friends at Uinta Golf. We are sending you to Valley View today. So text 877-353-0700. Tell me your favorite local golf course, wherever you're at. 877-353-0700. We will send you to Valley View. The PGA Tour is at the RBC Heritage, where Matt Fitzpatrick is your leader through 2 rounds at 14 under. Victor Hovland at 13 under. Harris English at 10. Then it's Patrick Cantlay, Sepp Straka, Ludwig Oberg, all at 9 under par. All right, 3 hours down, 1 hour to go. The final hour of the program on a Friday is next on ESPN 700. Gonna send you into your weekend with a little Third Eye Blind, huh? How about that? See, Adrian Denny seems like such a nice guy. I didn't want to mock him for his Third Eye Blind love.
Well, that would have been off base anyway. But
Wait, are you a fan of Third Eye Blind?
They got some bangers.
That doesn't seem to
Even
be
this one.
Doesn't seem to be on brand for you. This might be their best song. If you're going to listen to a Third Eye Blind song, this is probably the track.
And when I say that, I may just be thinking of this song.
Yeah.
But hey.
Well, the reason I soured on Third Eye Blind, because I know everyone's curious about this. No one cares. There was an article written about the lead singer of Third Eye Blind, and he was a record company executive and realized all you need to do to make money in music is learn like 3 chords and write dopey lyrics. And so he admitted that this is not great music, but I was in the business and I know how to make money doing this. So I'm just going to make a bunch of money writing horrible songs. He outwardly admitted what he was doing. And
to be clear, it's not like it's the most substantive tunes.
Oh.
I think this one's well written though.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
just,
I'm not
devil's advocate here.
Not hating anyone for going to get the bag. If you find a way to make money doing the least amount of work possible, you're living the American dream. You could even be president.
Also, though, you got to keep that third eye open, not blind.
All right.
Gotta be aware. You gotta keep it out. Keep an eye out.
Would you rather die of heat or cold?
You asked me this, and I struggled. I pump faked. Dying of heat, like heat exhaustion, or are we freezing to death, or is there fire involved?
A lot of good follow-up questions. I would just say you're so hot you die, or you're so cold you die.
I might go frozen.
I don't know, man.
Because then I'm going to wake up in 10,000 years and see all the cool stuff.
Oh, okay. Well, that's one angle.
Encino Man style.
Some sad news as Sue Bird and Megan Rapinoe have broken up.
Heartbroken.
I know. I mean, Sue Bird may have just started paying attention. She doesn't seem like a great time, dude. I'm sorry.
I'm not going to disagree with you. Megan Rapinoe does not, great soccer player.
Sure.
Doesn't seem like the funnest hangout.
Yeah, I'll leave that there. All right, fun weekend ahead. Excuse me. We've got NBA play-in tonight. We have NBA playoffs tomorrow. We have RSL in action. We have the Mammoth in action. So enjoy your weekend. You've earned it. Happy Friday. Porter, what are we doing on a Monday show?
On a Monday show, we'll recap the NHL playoffs, the NBA play-in, all of the activity from the weekend. Tom Haberstroh for your NBA Daily Assist. Ben Solak talking some NFL draft. It is draft week next week. I know it kind of snuck up on us with the hoops action. But Tom Haberstroh, Ben Solak will get a standout from the Real Salt Lake beat over the weekend, and then hoping to chat with our friend Bill Riley following FanFest and looking ahead to the NFL draft.
That's right. FanFest coming up tomorrow up at the Rice Echo Stadium. It's just right outside. So come meet some Utah players and coaches. I'll be up there. Give me a high five if you see me. And we'll say goodnight. Special thank you to Howard Beck, Jason Christ, Paul Pugmire, and Adrian Denny. For any of the sound you missed from the show today, go to the website. It's ESPN700sports.com. Download the mobile app. Take us on the go. ESPN 700 app is available in the App Store and the Google Play Store. Then finally, for what we do in our space every afternoon, we have a podcast. It's called The Drive with Spence Checketts. Subscribe, rate, review, say nice things, and give us all the stars. For Porter, I'm Spence saying goodnight. Have a great weekend. Be good to yourself. Be good to each other. We'll talk to you on a Monday Drive. And as always, you can catch that right here on ESPN 700.